Hey guys. This is part 6 of What If Naruto Was Smart and a Seal Master. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 35, Mission to the Land of Snow. Naruto sat in his secret home and read through a scroll on advanced wind jutsus. There was one he had wanted to try for a while, but he had had other things that he regarded more important at the time. But now he had a week off from duty, and that meant he could finally invest the time he needed for the training. For the last 2 months he had been doing one mission after another. After the initial B rank with Shino, Sasuke and Shikamaru, he had also done 3 C ranks leading Ino, Choji and Kiba as the team leader. One had been up to an A rank though. Like with the wave mission, he found it strange that many of his missions turned out harder than they should be. The others of his age group hadn't experienced as many upgraded missions as him. Well, except during those times they were on a team with him. The mission had been to deliver new orders to one of the outposts of Konoha at the border with Rain Country. Sadly, they had run into a fight between the ninjas of the outpost and a group of missing Nins from both AIM and IWA. And the IWA Nins hadn't taken well to finding the son of the Yellow Flash close to them. Missing Nins they might be, but they still harbored the hatred for the man that essentially cost them the Third Ninja World War. Taking it out on Naruto was simply petty, but hey, nobody said that IWA Nins were above that stupidity. Naruto had had to fight really hard to not only defend himself against 2 Jonin-level ninjas and 4 Chunin-level, but to also keep the team he was leading safe. He wouldn't allow for any of his subordinates to die on a mission that should just have been an easy C rank. His combination of shadow clones, wind jutsus and the flying thunder god jutsu won them the fight, and they managed to capture 2 of the missing Nins. They even had bounties on their heads, so after they had been interrogated in Konoha, they would be cashing in those bounties. Of the 3, Genin Ino got hurt most with a deep cut on her right thigh. She had stupidly tried to use one of her clan's jutsus that left her body vulnerable. He had given her a stern talking to when it was acceptable to do something like that. As with her using it then, she not only gave herself a dangerous opening, she also tied up Choji's ability to fight back and completely prevented that he could attack. He would have to talk about that part with Asuma as well, as he would be taking over the team once he wasn't tied up with higher ranking missions anymore. Naruto went through the hand signs for his new jutsu over 50 times to make sure that he had the quick forming of the 20 hand signs down instinctively, and then he tried the jutsu with input of chakra. Wind release. Mirage, he thought, having by now mastered the art of using his jutsus without shouting them out to warn his enemy. It was a difficult thing to do, as it took massive focus. Few Jonin even bothered to learn this, as it took years normally to get to the level where you could feel your chakra in a way where you could try it. And if they did, they normally used it for jutsus that they knew very well and which they used regularly. He knew that Kakashi-sensei could do it for replacement, clones, Raikiri, summoning and transformation. He hadn't seen other jutsus being used like that, but he suspected that he couldn't do it for all of the 1,000 jutsus he had copied. Naruto wanted to have an arsenal that he could use silently, and within a split second if necessary. And he didn't want to be spotted when he was on a mission that required stealth, which was why this jutsu had been on his list to learn it. When he now looked into the mirror, he couldn't see himself anymore. It wasn't perfect, there were blurred edges of the jutsu, which he would have to fine-tune. Mirage did exactly what the name said. Like a mirage in the desert, this jutsu broke the light in ways that deceived the eye. But instead of being like a genjutsu that pretended that there was something that wasn't there, this jutsu formed a kind of mirror in front of any part of Naruto. The eye saw things by analyzing the signals that came in from light being reflected from a surface. The brain then connected the information and allowed you to perceive the world around you. There were other jutsus that had a similar effect, but nothing could really compare with getting the effect by using wind manipulation. And if he mastered the jutsu in the end, it would make it nearly impossible to locate him if you weren't a sensor type of a high level. It would make infiltration a whole lot easier. He was already good at suppressing his chakra to barely noticeable, and this would add to his abilities nicely. Kakashi looked at the mission request in front of him frowning. He had a bad feeling about this mission. Since the thwarted invasion, things had gone fairly well for Konoha and they were nearly back up to normal working procedures. This mission would have been one that he needed to do in person, as he had been the only one that had any experience with the country that was their destination. Snow Country. The manager of a famous actress, Yuki Fujikaze, was asking for protection of the actress while the next Princess Gale movie was filmed in Snow Country. The problem was that Kakashi remembered the name Sandaime. It was one of the royal guard's name, This required a carefully selected team that could deal with any situation. He looked over the roster of ninjas that he had available right now. He needed to make sure that the team was strong enough, but that he didn't send ninjas that were needed for other missions. The mission was set as an A rank, which at least allowed him to send 1 or 2 jonins together with some chunins. He first selected Hakuyuki, as his ice bloodline limit would make him perfectly suited for the climate of Snow Country. Not to mention that he was a fully qualified medic now and would cover that position on the team as well. He was a special jonin. Sending anybody who was handicapped in the cold would be stupid, so any Aburames were out. Their bugs didn't work well in the cold. Against the special chakra armor of the snow ninjas, you didn't do well with normal ninjutsu or genjutsu, so probably he shouldn't send Kurenai. She wasn't the best at taijutsu. Ga was a possibility though. But he was still responsible for his genin team. Perhaps he could send that team with some other jonins for support? Lee was a taijutsu specialist, which would be useful for fighting against ninjas that used chakra armor. Tenten specialized in weapons, again a useful thing, and Niji with his Byakugan and the Jukin was a good idea, as the armor didn't cover the head. So Haku as the medic and 1 other jonin or strong chunin for support that could cover all areas that would be needed. Naruto was available. He had just finished his last mission leading the remaining genin from Teams 8 and 10 6 days ago and would be ready to move out again. The mission would start in 2 days, so that wouldn't interrupt his recovery time. Not that Naruto was really relaxing probably. He knew that his student was normally busy working on new jutsus whenever he got the time. Looking over the files of the ninjas, he nodded to himself and sent out calls for Team 9, Naruto and Haku. The 6 ninjas stood in front of the Hokage, waiting for their orders. You've been called to do an A-rank mission. The destination is Snow Country and the mission objective is protecting the actress Yuki Fujikaze from any attackers that might be after her. Snow Country was taken over in a coup d'etat over 15 years ago. The daimyo was killed by his brother Doto, but I managed to get Princess Koyuki Kazahana to safety. I suspect that Yuki Fujikaze is in reality Princess Koyuki. The manager that is our client has the same name as one of the royal guards of the killed daimyo. I suspect that there is more going on behind the scenes than we are told, Kakashi informed the group of 6. The team leader will be Guy Mato with Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze being second in command. Hakuyuki will take the position of the team's medic. One thing you have to be aware of is that back when the coup d'etat took place, the snow ninjas had armor that made chakra-based techniques basically useless. I assume that they will have developed those armors further, so be prepared to not be able to use ninjutsu and genjutsu effectively. We don't know what's going to happen, so be vigilant. The mission starts in 2 days. It would be good for you all to get an idea about the actress and her movies, so go and watch the newest Princess Gale movie that's being played in the cinema. Once you did that, Naruto and Guy should go and meet with Sandaime, the client of this mission, Kakashi told them. Understood, Hokage-sama, most said, with Naruto replacing it with Sensei. We will make sure to perform at the peak of the power of youth. Guy declared. Yes, Guy-sensei. Lee agreed loudly. Niji and Tenten only shook their heads, knowing the quirks of their teammates too well. Though both were looking at their other teammates for this mission curiously. While Tenten had already worked with Naruto during the invasion, she had wanted to have a mission with him since then to see more about his abilities. And Niji had got a major wake-up call from seeing how somebody that had been called a loser and failure at the academy had risen above the so-called geniuses of his year, and knowing that Naruto, who had been hated by nearly the whole village, and whom the civilians and some ninjas had tried to keep down, had defied all the odds, gave him some hope that he might not be totally fated to never escape his shackles and his clan. The fact that his uncle had finally given him the last letter that his father had written to him had helped as well. He still wasn't a social person, but at least he didn't demean the efforts of others anymore. Naruto listened to the information that Sandaime gave him and Guy. As he had already seen the movie before, he had opted out of accompanying Team 9 and Haku to the cinema. He had created 100 shadow clones to prepare a number of seals for him and get the orders from the armory done before he left for Snow Country. It wouldn't do after all if the village didn't have enough essential seals for important missions. And the use of seals had massively increased since he had taken over stocking up the armory. Not to mention that more ninjas took up studying Fuinjutsu as they had seen how he had successfully subdued Gaara with it in the Chunin exams finals. Gaara right now had got an addition to his seal. Jiraiya had declared the seal a right mess when he got a look at it, which allowed him to sleep for at least 4 hours each night without trouble from Shikaku. Suna had had to pay a large amount of reparation to get the ninjas, which they had lost to capture from Konoha, back. The discovery of the murder of their Kazakage before the invasion led to Suna capitulating without any conditions, and made the Fire Daimyo a bit more willing to find a compromise for the attack on the grounds of Fire Country. The economic depression of Suna was also taken into account when the demands were made. It led to Suna having to give up information on any kind of A-rank jutsus that they had and sending Kankuro to Konoha for 6 months to give introductory classes in puppetry for the Konoha Academy. He would also inform the Konoha hospital about the most common poisons used with the puppets. In return, Gaara, Temari, and the captured ninjas were sent back to Suna. Right now, Suna wasn't really a dangerous opponent, and the major disturbing power in the form of Orochimaru and Oto was dealt with, so Suna wouldn't have any ally to attack, not that they would easily do so. They were let off lightly by Konoha, and they knew that. Konoha could have extracted Shikaka from Gaara and created a new Jinchuriki loyal to their village, but they didn't and let Gaara return to Suna with a stronger seal. Then worker from the film crew came in and shouted that Yuki had run away, again. Naruto sighed. This didn't bode well for the mission. He set out to catch the wayward actress. He crossed his fingers to make 10 shadow clones. The clones went off to search for the actress. No verbal orders were needed. About half an hour later, one clone had found her in a bar. Naruto went there in person to talk to the actress to get a feeling for her personality. He found her sitting at the bar, already a bit drunk. So you're the next one to try and get me to go? I'll never go to Snow Country. Forget it. Find another main actress, Yuki slurred. Sorry, not within the mission parameters. Now we have the choice of you coming peacefully, or that I have to force you to come, Naruto said calmly. I have no idea why you are so set against going to Snow Country, but there is no way that I would simply fail a mission because of a stubborn woman that whines like a 5-year-old brat. You know nothing. Snow Country only brings death. There is no life, no spring in Snow Country, Yuki stated. There is life when you are willing to work for it, but I guess you'll never accept words, only actions will convince you, Naruto said, and faster than Yuki could blink she fell down on the counter, a senbon sticking out from her arm on the side that Naruto sat. This will go over so well when she wakes up. Naruto took some money for the drinks from Yuki's pocket and left with her slung over his shoulder. Let her sleep until they were on the way. That way they wouldn't have to deal with another escape attempt. Naruto had been right on his estimation how Yuki was going to react. She threw a massive tantrum when she realized that she was already on the ship on the way to the one country she never wanted to see again. How dare you drug me? She laid into Naruto, who calmly leaned against the railing. You had no right to force me to go to Snow Country. Are you done yet? I couldn't care less about your tantrums. You think you had it bad? That you're the only one to suffer because power-hungry bastards ruined your life? There are hundreds if not thousands of others in this world with a fate worse than yours. The only way to not become a bitter and spiteful person is to take things into your own hands and to work on making your situation better. I have been in Wave Country before they recovered. A business tycoon named Gato had basically enslaved the country. He killed those that opposed him and were in the way to him monopolizing the shipping market, which ensured that he could continue his criminal business without getting caught. I have been part of the team, a genin team at that freed Wave Country. But the one thing that gave that country hope was that one man, a bridge builder, refused to give up on his country. He bravely started building a bridge to the mainland to overcome the poverty and desperation of his people, and he was made a target for assassination for it. One team managed to free a country. One team managed to help a brave man to finish his dream. You only need to have the guts to do something to have success. Otherwise you'll only be a victim for the rest of your life, Naruto pointed out, and then went back under deck. He's right, you know, Haku now spoke up. Running away never solves problems. They will catch up to you. I nearly did that after I lost my master. I had made it my destiny to help him achieve his dreams. When he was killed on the same mission that Naruto spoke of, incidentally by the current Hokage when he was still the Jonin sensei of Naruto's genin team, I first thought I had nothing to live for anymore. But with some support and the willingness of Konoha to help me find a new reason to live, I am now much better off than before. I'm originally from the land of water, where people with a bloodline limit like mine were hunted and killed on orders of the Mizukage. I learned to fight to protect myself and my precious people. Since coming to Konoha I found a few more than I had before. Even if I lost the person that meant most to me, because he was the one to save me when I was a child, I realized that throwing my life away and running away from it all wasn't the way to honor his memory. I will fight and make my name known as the best student of the greatest member of the 7 shinobi swordsmen of Kiri. My master was Zabuza Momochi. And while others call him a demon, for me he was the one to save me. I have some friends that give me a reason to live and to fight. The opposition may appear overwhelming, but I know one thing. Never underestimate Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I did, and I paid for it when I fought against him when he was just a genin. Konoha ninjas don't just give up when things get hard. And his life was way harder than you could imagine. It's not my place to say anything, it's his story to tell when he wants. But know that if anybody knows how to overcome overwhelming odds, it's him. Haku then left Yuki to think about what she had been told. It would take time to get through to her. But if he, who had at first hated Naruto, Kakashi and Konoha for taking away Zabuza, could come to cherish them all as comrades and some as his precious people, then this woman, who probably had gone through a traumatic experience, the death of her father if the Hokage was right about her identity, could learn to stop running away and face her fears. The Konoha team watched in awe how completely different Yuki was when she was in her role. It was like she did a 180 turnaround. She was fully into her role, but Tenten and Lee were aghast seeing that she needed eye drops to fake crying believably. Neji and Naruto stood at their positions, looking around for any kind of disturbance, but right now everything went as it should. They were on the open sea and it would take some time till they reached snow country. So far they also didn't need to wear their warmer clothes, even if every member of the team wore long clothes already. After the filming for the day was done, the actress stormed back into her cabin, ignoring the requests of her manager Sandaime. Well, he had been the one to arrange for this trip, so probably she was a bit justified in it. Some days passed and the ship encountered a massive iceberg. We're close to snow country now, Guy announced. Let's fan our flames of youth to protect our charges to the best of our abilities. Yes, Guy-sensei, Lee shouted eagerly. The director of the filming crew then decided that the iceberg was the perfect location for another scene in the film, so they went there to get it done. Then Neji called out a warning. I detect 3 persons coming closer fast, he told the team. 2 male and 1 female. 1 male uses a board on which he glides over the snow. Then the group appeared and their leader greeted Yuki as Princess Koyuki. None of the Konoha ninjas was really surprised, as the Hokage had already suspected something like that. The snow ninjas started to attack and the Konoha group managed to dodge and keep Yuki and the film crew safe. Guy gave orders. Lee and Haku, take the guy with the snowboard. Naruto and Tenten, take out the woman, I'll deal with the leader. Neji, you are in charge of protecting Princess Koyuki and the film crew, Guy ordered. Understood. The younger ones in the group chorused and took their positions. Each of them raced towards their opponent, while Neji was ready to shield against any kind of attack. Meanwhile he arranged for the retreat of the film crew. Koyuki was a shaking mess on the ground, so he picked her up bridal style and then put her onto one of the carts that the film crew used. He deflected a few kunais from hitting anybody while keeping an eye on the whole battle. Haku and Lee were pushing the guy on the snowboard hard. His armor worked fairly well against Haku's direct ninjutsu, but he used them mostly, after finding out that any chakra-based attack really didn't cause any worthwhile damage, to herd his opponent towards Lee, who was a green blur on the snow. Lee then took care of smacking him around with his taijutsu and easily got him off his snowboard, which lost him the maneuverability advantage he had had before. Then Haku landed a perfect hit with his senbons on a spot on the neck that put their opponent into a fake death state. Soon they had the opponent in a prisoner scroll and were back on the way to the ship. It was clear to Neji why Haku was known as a really good medic. And hitting that precise spot on a moving target from a distance proved serious skill with senbons. Not even Tenten could have done that any better. I'm going to take the fight up in the air against her, Naruto told Tenten when the woman activated some flight extrusions of her armor. I'd like you to put more pressure on her from the ground as best as you can. I could set up a trap, but she would have to come down for that. And here is nothing suited for that, Tenten complained. Just preventing her from leaving a certain area will help a lot. And if you manage to hit her armor in that round field, I would guess it would malfunction. I'll see to it that you get some good opportunities to fire at her, Naruto informed Tenten. Alright, let's do it. She agreed and got her arsenal ready. Naruto took off his warm coat and activated the flight seals on his normal trench coat. He soon was upon his opponent that hadn't expected that there was somebody in the Konoha group that could fly and match her in aerial combat. And by now Naruto could instinctively control his movements in the air. His control over his wind element was that advanced. He saw that he had surprised his opponent with his ability, and used it to fire a wind jutsu that created a tornado around her. It wouldn't harm her body, but she wouldn't be able to fly around like she wanted to. He had read Kakashi's report on the armor of the snow ninjas and knew that he had to attack indirectly, causing physical damage. So while the wind made of chakra didn't do much, when he added a pack of senbons into it, the situation was completely different. He could hear pained yelps from inside the tornado. Fast Senbons were simply devilishly tricky to dodge or deflect. He controlled the tornado enough to bring his opponent lower in the air, and then he dropped the jutsu when he saw Tenten in position to strike. Tenten reacted immediately. She threw a barrage of kunai, aiming at the round piece of the armor, where Naruto suspected the power source. The second kunai was a bullseye. The first one had been deflected. The third and fourth ones also hit, but not dead center, as the woman had started falling from the sky when her power supply to her wings was cut off. Tenten secured the woman quickly, tying her up in ninja wire for later interrogation, not to mention that the research department in Konoha would love to have a look at the armor. Naruto took out a prisoner scroll and soon the two went back to the ship, backing up Niji, who simply nodded to them for a good fight. Guy meanwhile was having a harder time. His opponent was very skilled with ice release and was keeping him at a distance. While he didn't manage to get a true hit onto Guy, he was simply too fast for that. Guy also couldn't get into range to use one of his jutsus. They exchanged some attacks and counters, but the man, whose name was Nadar, retreated when he noticed that his comrades had fallen and were captured. Against superior numbers he wouldn't do too well and he knew it. Guy frowned at him leaving, but with having to get around another ice jutsu to get to him, he didn't really manage to stop him. Guy returned to the ship. Good work, everybody. I'm proud of you all. You truly showed them that your flames of youth were far superior to their weak will, Guy declared, giving them a thumbs up with sparkling teeth showing in his bright smile. The film director was also ecstatic about having got so much perfect action material from this incident. Yuki was taken inside to rest, and then the ninjas sat down with Sandaime. They needed the full story now, as this mission had got a whole lot more difficult than expected. Chapter 36, Information Gathering. Naruto looked at Sandaime with disdain. This plan he had worked out was not thought through. Who thought that dragging a princess back to her home country, when she clearly suffered a trauma, would be enough to make her take over the leadership over some weak rebellion? Even Wave Country had had better starting conditions. Kazuna had been a leader, a drunk and insulting leader, but he had stood up for his people and had done something. He had found a way to achieve the goal of giving his people a future. The main problem had been that the opponent was too powerful for him alone, even if the people of Wave Country would have all stood up against Gato. The numbers of thugs that Gato employed required ninja intervention. It required the silent assassination that he and Kakashi-sensei had performed, no matter how hard that had been. But in the end Kazuna had managed to motivate his people to work for their freedom after the danger was gone. The people were just too scared to do anything that could get them killed. Here in Snow Country there was no leader that was taking the lead over those that were perhaps willing to fight. They all expected their princess to lead them, when it was clear that she wanted to be anywhere but here. It was a strategy that was doomed to fail from the beginning. He and Haku had interrogated their captives and had found out that Doto had been aware of the identity of Yuki for a while, and had let Sandaime play into his hands by bringing her back to Snow Country. It meant it would be much harder from here on, as Doto wanted the hexagonal crystal that Koiki wore around her neck. It was supposedly the key to the treasure of the Kazahana family. And he wanted that treasure. The interrogation also gave them a lot of information about the technology of the Snow Country, technology that was far advanced compared to anything that Konoha had. It was clear that they would have to take the chance to take some of it for Konoha and if possible steal some blueprints to recreate the armor. It would increase the power of their village a lot. The main problem was that they would have to get into Doto's fortress, and that was damn difficult. The man was a security nut, and it would take time to sneak inside. Especially as there were few animals that Naruto could imitate to get in like he had done with Gato's hideout. Well, perhaps this could be a proper test for his Mirage Jutsu. Having enough of listening to Sandaime, Naruto spoke up. That plan is doomed to fail, as Princess Koyuki isn't very cooperative right now. While she might be willing to take over the place of daimyo once this conflict is solved, she is no soldier and would be a liability in a fight, Naruto told them seriously. Finally somebody with a brain, they heard Koiki's voice from the door. I have no intention to risk my life in a fight I don't think has any chance of success. My father's soldiers were well trained, but my uncle still managed to kill him and take over the country. What kind of chance would a ragtag group of rebels have? None right now, I'll agree with you there. We don't have enough information right now and should gather that before we plan any kind of attack, Naruto stated. I suggest you go to a safe hiding place once we land and Haku and I go in to gather the information we need. We're the ones best suited to deal with an information gathering mission. Haku is in his element here and I'm a specialist in stealth. Team Guy will make sure that you're completely safe. Once we know what we're dealing with, and if possible we'll also perform some sabotage unnoticed, we'll come back and put a proper plan together. Yes, that makes sense. I agree with that, Naruto. How long do you think you would need? Guy asked, being serious for once. Give us 4 days and we'll have everything we need. I'll leave one of my kunais with you to be able to get us out quickly in case they find us, Naruto told him. How do you plan to get inside that fortress? Koyuki asked disbelievingly. Oh, that's fairly easy as long as we get close to it, Haku informed them. I have a jutsu that allows me to travel through ice mirrors. I can create these mirrors anywhere within my field of sight. If I get one mirror into a window of the fortress, I can travel there, and with one of Naruto's kunai he can follow me once I'm inside. So your reach has drastically improved on that jutsu, Haku. That's really useful. I was going to have to see what entrances the fortress had to sneak inside. But this plan is much better. Especially as your mirrors can hover in the air, Naruto complimented the ice user. Thank you, Naruto. Let's check our equipment, and then get going. They won't expect us to get in on foot, Haku said. Naruto nodded and the two boys left. They only heard Guy set up some guard schedules for his genin and tell the captain to have the speed to deceive the snow ninjas when they would arrive. Right now they were safer on the ship than on land, where the snow ninjas would be able to use their jutsus more freely. After all, their 2 ninjutsu specialists were just going to get the information gathering mission done. Haku and Naruto easily reached the shore, and thanks to Haku's abilities managed to get past the guards at the coast without being detected. Haku had simply called a snowstorm to hinder their visibility. Once they didn't sense any ninjas close by, they increased their speed. Both of them were naturally fast, so they made good time getting to the castle. Sandaime had told them where it was located when he described his plans to free Snow Country after all. They still needed a full day to get there. They set up camp to rest for 4 hours before they would continue. Haku created an igloo for them to use and made it look like part of the landscape to not arouse suspicion from guards at the fortress. Naruto, meanwhile, after seeing that there were some crows around here, made 2 shadow clones and sent them to gather some information on where it would be easiest to let Haku enter the fortress with his mirror. It wouldn't be good if he accidentally broke into Doto's throne room. The crow clones flew all over the fortress and got a good idea where the entry points were. They looked through all the windows and finally decided that a window on the 2nd floor that belonged to a bathroom would be a good place. Nobody would after all think twice about a person coming out of a bathroom. They would only have to capture 2 people that went to the bathroom and take their positions for a while. Not that difficult. After having got 5 hours of sleep, thanks to having clones doing the watch, Haku and Naruto discussed the plan of what kind of information they wanted to get and how to proceed after they had entered the fortress. Both boys were used to infiltrating bases and decided that each would go for another area. Haku would look for the sleeping areas of the ninjas and normal guards of the fortress to be able to take them out of the equation early on. Naruto would look for the data on the special armor that the snow ninjas used and find out what Doto planned exactly. He had to have plans for Princess Koyuki, or he wouldn't have bothered trying to capture her. They needed to know what those plans were, and what could be done to thwart them. While Konoha normally didn't interfere in internal affairs of other countries, brutal dictators that killed rightful rulers of a country were a problem for everybody, as they tended to be power-hungry and didn't stop at taking over one country. They normally wanted to rule over everything. And that was something Konoha interfered with. When the clones gave the signal that there weren't any guards around to see them, Haku started to create one of his mirrors in the bathroom window. He precisely made the mirror the same size as the window, positioning it a few centimeters away from the window itself, and soon had a second mirror in front of him. He stepped into the first mirror and pushed his hands out of the second one. Then he created a third mirror inside the bathroom. He switched from the second mirror to the third one and undid the mirrors with a wave of his hand. He was incredibly glad that he had finally mastered this jutsu well enough to not have to jump from mirror to mirror. That had been the first stage of this jutsu. But having the chance to properly work on his bloodline limit allowed him to evolve the jutsu. Now he could travel to any mirror that held his chakra without having to leave the first mirror bodily. It was like teleportation, just that he had to have a mirror as a destination point. He took out the kunai Naruto had given him and pushed some chakra into it, only for Naruto to appear a second later. They nodded at each other. The first part of the infiltration had worked out perfectly. They jumped to the ceiling and disguised themselves with cloth that had the same color as the ceiling. Now they needed to wait for a while until they had 2 persons that they could take over for. Naruto and Haku only had to wait for half an hour before 2 persons entered the room. They quickly took them out and sealed them into a prisoner scroll each. Interrogating them would have to wait for a while, as they worked on a tight schedule. Thankfully, both had an identity card pinned to their uniforms, probably to determine easily who was permitted to enter certain areas. Each of them took the appearance of one of their captives, put the cards onto their chests in the same position where the ones they were now impersonating had worn them, and then they flushed 2 toilets and washed their hands to keep the appearance of simply having used the bathroom before leaving again. Each of them went into a different direction. Naruto found the laboratory easily, thanks to having seen the position through a window, while his clones had been spying in crow form. He had left 2 of them outside to give him a warning if something major happened. Thanks to his mirage jutsu, none of the scientists noticed him while he stood in a corner of the laboratory, keeping silent. He watched the scientists working and listened to their conversations, memorizing anything he thought could be of use later on. For example, he easily saw the code that one scientist tipped on the number panel on the safe, which opened the safe. The blueprints for the chakra armor were put inside before the scientists left for the day. Naruto had watched the room for 3 hours now, and he waited for 20 minutes after the last scientist had gone before he went to the safe. He was honestly surprised that there weren't more security precautions to make sure that only identified and cleared personnel had access to the safe. There were no traps, you only had to give the correct combination. Admittedly, the combination had 8 digits, meaning that guessing the right combination would be next to impossible for burglars. But there was nothing like a proximity alarm, for example. Thanks to knowing the code, he easily got the blueprints out. After a brief check, he used some new papers that were stored in a cupboard in the room to create a halfway convincing fake. After all, he didn't want to alert Doto to the fact that his headquarters had been infiltrated too early on. He intentionally changed a few things around, especially the power sources setup. That would make any chakra armor that was created in the future based on these plans, should that happen before they could deal with Doto, fail in action. He repeated the procedure for other technology that looked interesting. It would be up to Konoha's research department and Kakashi-sensei to decide which ones they wanted to use. The original plans went into a storage scroll. Naruto left the rest of the laboratory untouched, as he didn't want to tip anybody off too early on. Right now his mission was information gathering and subtle sabotage. Nothing obvious. He made sure that nobody was outside of the laboratory before opening the door and leaving the area. The next destination he had was trying to find out if Doto had any direct plans for how to capture the princess. Haku needed an hour to find the quarters of Doto's guards. To his delight, a guard schedule was pinned to a notice board, so he copied it down when nobody was around. He also created mirrors in the 3 windows around the quarters and put a genjutsu over them to make it appear as if nothing had changed. They looked like the windows before, but they would enable him to get into the room at any time. It was another improvement to his jutsu. While he needed to see the place where he put the mirror, he could go into any existing mirror from any other mirror. So if he had the chance to prepare mirrors in a place, he could return there at any time, for as long as the mirrors still had chakra and didn't melt down. So far his best result was keeping up to 6 mirrors for 4 hours on end. After that he lost control over the jutsu thanks to chakra exhaustion. He was still working on the number and the time, but it was already a really useful skill. His plan was to simply put all the guards into a false death state. He still wasn't comfortable with killing people if he had any other choice. And his skills with Saban rarely made it necessary to kill. Instead, he delivered his captives to the T&I division to let them be interrogated for useful information. A look at his wrist watch told him that the main number of guards would return to the quarters in 2 hours. They would get dinner there, which he had found out on the schedule, and he expected them to go to bed about 2 to 3 hours after that. Of course, some had guard duty during the night, but the number was far smaller than during the day. He left the room to follow the schedule of the man he was impersonating. Right now, he was expected to guard the north entrance for the next 2 hours. After that, he would have a break. The guards rotated every 2 hours, which made security tighter than with rotation schemes that had longer periods. You had to exchange more people after all if you were after a specific area. Naruto had sent 5 clones under the Mirage Jutsu out to map out the fortress. It would come in useful once they led a direct attack against Doto. Well, as direct as a ninja would act. Sneaking in and hitting core locations was more likely the course of action. He got a note with the guard schedule from Haku when they crossed paths again, and he made sure to not blow his cover. The more time they had to gather information, the better for them. The real attack would happen soon. Haku would strike against all guards in the dorms and take them out for at least a week. By Haku's estimation, according to the note, that would mean that they had 3/4 of all guards presently at the fortress taken out. That would change the odds a lot in their favor. With all the existing machines that Doto could use, it would be needed. and the rebellion of the people of Snow Country couldn't really be called a danger to Doto. They seemingly only had the hope that their princess would take over the lead and defeat the murderer of her father. As if that would be easy, Koyuki wasn't a trained fighter. She was an actress and traumatized by the incident when she was a child. She might be able to take over ruling the country, if they freed it before that, but she wasn't qualified to lead a fight. Naruto and Haku watched the chaos unfold in the morning when the condition of the guards that Haku had hit was found out. And there was a number of leading personnel missing. Thanks to knowing who led which unit of guards, they had decided to capture them for interrogation. Naruto had had to create 24 new prisoner scrolls for it, but he had easily done that. Though he would have to stock up on new sealing supplies when they returned to Konoha. His would last for this mission. He had made sure to have triple the supplies you normally calculated for, but with the pace they were using them up, he would need to restock. They had given up on their disguises and now hid under Naruto's Mirage Jutsu to not be found before they could sneak out. It was too bad that during the night there had been some kind of barrier that prevented that anybody could leave or enter the fortress without being detected. And even Haku's mirrors hadn't been able to get them through. It was an advanced sealing array, one which Naruto knew, as it was an Uzumaki creation originally. He suspected that it had been stolen when Uzushio had been destroyed and somehow Doto got hold of it. You could only deactivate the barrier if you had a special key, and none of them knew where that key was kept. Not to mention that the key could be anything that was decided on while the sealing array was created. Therefore they decided to wait until the barrier was deactivated in the morning. Naruto had unsealed 2 of his specialized flying devices, which he had created for the invasion of Konoha, but which hadn't been used then, as it wasn't needed, and now the 2 were waiting for some guards to search the roof. They would follow them and keep hidden until they could take off unnoticed. It didn't matter that Doto was aware of the attack on most of his guard force, he wouldn't notice what else they had done until it was too late. And Naruto had left a nice little surprise in the storage of the chakra armor, a few explosive notes, try about 5 for each armor, and the large storage room was filled up to the roof, would go off once his chakra signature left the fortress. Which was why he wanted to use the devices and didn't use his transformation abilities. The explosion would probably destabilize his transformation and he didn't want to risk that. The seals, which operated the devices, were tested to withstand any kind of foreign chakra. Once activated, they would only react to another chakra after being deactivated and newly activated. Haku had been really impressed with this, when Naruto had explained his emergency escape plan. They had discussed how to get away in case something went wrong with their first plan. It was simply common ninja sense to always have a few alternative plans up your sleeve. After all, if they could do it without giving up the possibility of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu being in their arsenal to their enemies, all the better. Finally, a group of 4 guards went up to the roof, unsealed the door, with one of them giving his fingerprint as identification, and checked if the attackers had hidden on the roof. The inspection came up negative, but none of them were ninjas and none noticed that Naruto and Haku had sneaked out with the group and stayed on the roof after the group left and sealed the door again. Naruto and Haku activated their flying devices and sped off towards the ocean where the ship would now be close to the shore. About half a minute after their takeoff, the explosive notes activated and blew up the storage room with any chakra armor that was kept in the fortress, and which wasn't worn by a person at that time. Haku just finished his part of the report to Guy while Guy's team listened in. Naruto had done his part first, and now they finished the rest of the report. Well, that was a very youthful information gathering, Haku and Naruto, Guy declared. What are we going to do now, Guy-sensei? Lee wanted to know. If we want to act, we should first find out what the captives that Haku and Naruto brought with them know. But I'm not that good at interrogation, Guy frowned. I can take care of that with Niji's help, Naruto spoke up. I'm no specialist in that area, but I know all the techniques one can use for it. And with his Byakugan he would be perfectly suited to spot if a prisoner lies to me, not to mention that his abilities with the gentle fist can be used to disable certain nerve clusters to make the prisoner talk more easily. That's true, and I was taught how to do exactly that by Hayashi-sama after the finals of the Chunin exams, Niji spoke up. He called it something that any Hyuga that goes on missions of C rank and above regularly needs to be capable of to ensure mission success. Naruto nodded. I'll also have 2 clones draw maps of the fortress so that you can work with Haku on plans to enter it for a direct attack against Doto, Naruto told Guy. Very good, Naruto. Your flames of youth burn brightly, Guy declared. Naruto didn't comment, but took Niji to a distant room where they could start interrogating their captives. It wouldn't do to have Haku or Lee watch what exactly they would do. Both didn't like violence, even if Haku was less naive that ninjas often had to use it. Naruto hoped that the drugs he had available would be enough to get the answers that he needed. Otherwise, this would become nasty. It took 8 hours for Neji and Naruto to finish questioning their prisoners. The rest of the team had worked on the plans for attacking Doto. But it wouldn't be easy. While Haku and Naruto had managed to infiltrate the fortress, it would be much harder to do so with a whole team, in which most of them weren't specialized in infiltration. Not to mention that the security around Doto himself was much harder to crack than the overall one of the fortress. Otherwise, Naruto and Haku would have acted while they were there. But Doto's personal guards were specially selected men that used codes and other methods of identification to assure that no assassin could get close to Doto. They were also a good bit above the level of the normal guards there. Especially Nadar would pose a problem. He was a high-level jonin and had shown that he shouldn't be underestimated in his fight against Guy. When Naruto and Neji returned to the group, the prisoners were sealed in the prisoner scrolls again, in worse state than before. Guy asked them what they had found out. Most of the ones that were caught didn't know a lot about the security around Doto. They are the ones that keep the low and middle areas of security watched. The group leaders mostly supplied us with the normal procedures of the guards, which are basic ones that we learned of in the academy, and some specifics about 1 or 2 areas they knew about. There is a secret passage from the basement to the laboratory that is only known to the guard force leaders, which is mostly used to get secret supplies to the scientists without the majority of the workers there having a clue. It is secured with a number code, but I suspect that the one we got will be changed soon. After all, the break-in was noticed, Neji stated, and Haku and Naruto nodded, agreeing with that assessment. More interesting was one man that was degraded after messing up. He had once been part of the outer guard around Doto, and he told us that the guards change passwords every 2 days and that the inner guards have a tattoo on them that identifies them as such. The tattoo is a white circle with a red, 4-pointed star on the inner side of the left underarm. To enter the throne room, you have to give the password and have the tattoo inspected by an expert. Any fake is detected. Even transformation jutsu doesn't work for a reason. I guess they use a special kind of ink for the tattoos, Neji continued. The outer guards are the first line of defense if an attacker gets past the normal guards of the fortress. Most of them are ninjas of Chunin rank from Snow Country's ninja village. They rotate every week. The inner guard are mostly jonin with Nadar as their leader, Naruto now said. Getting into the building isn't the problem. I left some of my flying thunder god seals in there in about 10 places. I can take one of you with a clone each to get us in, but from there the problems start. While we don't have to worry about too many opponents with the chakra armor for now, the ones that we didn't hit with the explosive tags are still a concern, and I'd bet that they had a good number of other storage facilities that they are now contacting for replacements. Why did you blow the stock up then? Tenten asked. Distraction. My intention wasn't simply taking the armor out of the equation. I wanted to make them split up their already decreased forces. Doto knows that Princess Cookie is back and he wants her for some reason. We didn't find out what reason that was exactly, but rumors went around about some royal treasure. No idea if that information is reliable. If Doto had all of his forces available with chakra armor directly at the base, he would have much more options to act against us and kidnap the princess. Now he has to work around the false death state that Haku put his guards into, and without a medic, you need 2 weeks to fully recover from that. With a medic you need a week. As far advanced as their technology is, I bet that we have at most a week to use the loss of manpower. And the machines that they have built are difficult to overcome. I know that they have something called a train that they equipped with kunai and shuriken launchers. They are capable of launching 1,000 kunai at their opponents with a simple shot. It doesn't have the accuracy a ninja would have, but honestly, you would need a defense like Niji's rotation to protect yourself and others from that onslaught. And very few ninjas have such good defensive jutsus, Naruto pointed out. The others nodded. They knew that it was true. What do we do about the security of the princess? Haku asked. I think we should leave her in yours and Niji's care. You have your ice release, which gives you an immense advantage, and Neji can see any attacker from afar. Not to mention that he knows rotation in case they decide on a long-distance attack with kunai. Like Naruto described, Guy pondered, Lee, Tenten and I are best suited to go against the ones using the armor, and I think Naruto could succeed getting close to Doto. He has the ability to get close to him if he can get a flying thunder god seal onto one of Doto's guards or a place where Doto will appear for sure. That would be a possibility. But contrary to my dad, I haven't mastered the ability to simply attach the seal onto a person just by physical contact yet. I need to place a seal tag somewhere or use one of my special kunai, Naruto admitted. It could still work, Tenten spoke up. You would only need to have a good enough distraction. For example, we could place a sealed tag like that on one of our prisoners and let him be taken back. They wouldn't know to look out for it, instead they would interrogate the one we let escape. Doto will probably want to hear the report of the escapee in person, and then you could strike. That could work. And the ones we interrogated have no idea how Niji and I look like, as we kept them blindfolded. They wouldn't know that there was a possibility to be confronted with that jutsu. I'm the only one who knows it after all, and while I gained a reputation, it would be improbable that I was recognized during the fight on the iceberg by Nadar. He was after all busy with Guy, Naruto agreed. I think it is worth a try, Guy nodded. Over the next hour they worked out the details of the plan. Chapter 37, Battle Train. Doto wasn't a happy man, actually he was downright furious. Somebody had infiltrated his main base, and not only destroyed his whole stock of chakra armor there, but they also had debilitated 70% of his security personnel. He didn't know who it was that had done it, but he would show them why it was a very bad idea to make him angry. Right now, he was discussing the next steps with Nadar. He needed Koyuki and the hexagonal crystal for his plans. Your job, Nadar, is taking out these Konoha pests. There is no doubt that they are behind the sabotage. I don't know how they got in here, but I want the holes in security closed. We're too close to our goal to fail now, Doto declared. Yes, Lord Doto. Do you have any particular plans how to deal with the Konoha ninjas? And do we know more about their identities? Nadar asked. I ordered the newest editions of the bingo books from all villages that we're in contact with. These came out just a week ago. Anybody of interest should be in there. I haven't looked through it yet. As you and your team encountered them, you should know most about them, Doto informed Nadar. I'll immediately go through the entries about them and brief my underlings. Some of their jutsus were also already shown to us, and we'll use that to create strategies against them, Nadar assured him. Good. Inform me of the identities of those that you can identify, as I might encounter them in the future, Doto ordered, and Nadar bowed, leaving to get to work. Nadar, as the only one to escape the fight with the Konoha team, had to go through the bingo book by himself, though he had some others assist by taking out the pages of each bingo book and sort them by village affiliation. Finally, he had some confirmations. Alright, listen, he called out to the ninjas that were under his command at the base. I now know a few of the ninjas that were involved in the fight. It seems we are working against one genin team under Jonin Guy Mato and 2 higher-ranked ninjas. Guy is a taijutsu specialist and dangerous. His taijutsu style is the strong fist, which relies on speed and raw power. He's rumored to have been a rival to the Godame Hokage, Kakashi Hatake, in strength. Thankfully he's considered really stupid, but don't let your guard down when you encounter him. Guy is known to have mastered the Lotus and the 8 inner gates, so caution is needed. He's one of the fastest ninjas alive, and you can be sure that he can outrun any of our fighters. We need to trap him somehow to take away his speed advantage. It might be a good idea to target the genins under his command to achieve that. Guy is an A-rank elite jonin. Next on the list is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, a specialist in Fuinjutsu and ninjutsu. Recently promoted to special jonin, despite only being 13 years old. He's the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, who should be known to the older ninjas among us. The Yondaime Hokage's famous Flying Thunder God Jutsu was confirmed to have been used by his son in the invasion of Konoha. He's also confirmed as a seal master, which makes him even more dangerous. It might be possible that he has the toad summoning contract, but thankfully in our climate he probably won't call upon a battle toad. Despite his youth, the boy is highly dangerous. According to the bingo book, Naruto has been involved in the fall of Gato and Wave Country and the defeat of a team of IWA ninjas. He's already been given A rank as a threat, mainly because of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Last on the identified list is Tenten Jakunato, who's only got a mention in the book for having worked together with Naruto during the invasion of Konoha. She has essentially been the one to throw the kunais used for the Flying Thunder God Jutsus to exactly the right places for Naruto to profit from it. I would rank her as a C-rank threat on her own, higher when working in a team with Naruto. No matter what, don't underestimate her. If she's that proficient with kunai, we can assume that she probably knows how to handle other weapons as well, and a sniper always bears the risk of having to deal with long-distance attacks via explosive tags. I can tell that one of the group is a Hyuga, thanks to recognizing the Byakugan. That clan specializes in taijutsu by injecting chakra into the body with a simple tap of a finger, called the Gentle Fist. If the boy is any good, close combat with him is to absolutely avoid. Even if our armor gives us some protection, he could as well simply tap somebody's head and have the brain shut up, killing that person as efficiently as a kunai to the head would do. We don't know his name and potential, so don't take him lightly and simply assume he's Chunin level. That way we should be on the safe side. The next boy resembled Guy, so I would assume it is sure to say that he uses a similar taijutsu style, so careful engagement in battle is required, no matter if he's still a genin. As you know, taijutsu specialists are a weakness against our armor if they're fast and strong enough. I know that Kakashi Hatake knows about the models of the past, so he will have taken that into consideration when putting the team together. We have no information on the ice user, but he's certainly very capable of working with the landscape and he managed to capture his opponent. Among the group of 6, I would place the order of danger to Guy, then Naruto, then the ice user, the Hyuga, Tenten and the other boy. We need to plan properly to not fail against them again, because we can be sure that they'll try to attack again in the near future, profiting from taking out a large part of the security force of the base, Nadar pointed out. From the covert attack, we can be sure that there are 1 or 2 infiltration specialists in the group, but we can't really say which of them. It could be the ice user, Naruto, the Hyuga or the girl. Taijutsu specialists normally don't really have the jutsus to pull infiltration off successfully. We need to be even more on our guard, as they already managed to get inside once. They can do it again. I want you to look out for anything out of the norm and I want you all to look for strange-looking kunais with seals wrapped around the handle. Also look for seals that you don't recognize. It's highly possible that they hid some of the Flying Thunder God's seals in the fortress in preparation for an attack. Understood. The lower-ranked ninjas replied. The trip from the boat to the safe house was a risk, but they couldn't stay on the boat, as it was much too dangerous. They were easy targets there. The film crew was still going to accompany them on their journey, saying that this would be incredible material for the next Princess Gale movie. The ninjas had made sure to inform them that this was a highly dangerous mission now, but the director had assured them that they would be okay. Seemingly he thought that there was no better thing to happen than that a true princess being Princess Gale, and the quest to free her kingdom from her tyrannical uncle was even better than the original script for the movie. Talk about taking opportunities. Niji and Haku stayed close to Koki at all times while Naruto had a battalion of shadow clones scout ahead. It was good that Niji stayed close to Koki, as she had tried to escape twice so far already. She really didn't want to be in snow country. The group was getting closer to their destination. Then they heard a loud noise coming closer to their position. There's a large thing moving towards us at high speed. It's something mechanical and there are about 50 ninjas in there, Niji informed the group. The train, Koiki breathed out fearfully. Ah, the armed machine that Naruto reported about, Guy realized. Team, you know your jobs. Haku, please be prepared to raise a thick wall of ice to protect us against attacks in high numbers. Niji, stick to Princess Koiki. Naruto, take out as many of the weapon launchers as possible. Tenten, I want you to use the explosive tags with your kunai to help Naruto along. Lee, we will be taking out any opponents that leave the train and prevent that they can get close to our position. Guy quickly gave orders. Understood, was the common reply. Soon the train appeared. When Naruto saw how large it really was, he was just glad that they had talked Sandaime out of attacking Doto at the first opportunity they got. This thing was nothing a ragtag army could take on. Even 15 properly trained royal guards would be easy prey against this machine. You needed either a similar machine or ninjas with A-rank jutsus to make a dent into the metal. He watched how the train came to a stop. It had several wagons behind the part that pulled it, the engine, as had stood on the blueprints. Koiki seemed to panic. Keep your head down. Running now is doomed to failure, Niji told her. Then a loud voice came from the train. It's been 10 years, Koiki. Don't be shy, let's see your face, it said. I knew it, that's Doto, Koiki whimpered. He doesn't have you yet, Haku stated, and he won't get you. We will prevent that, Naruto added. So, you think such a small group can take my snow ninjas on? Ridiculous, Doto commented. We have the clear technological advantage. You're just an unyouthful tyrant that has no right to call himself the daimyo of this country. Murder of Princess Koiki's father, the rightful daimyo, is no legal justification to take over a country. The people will always know that you're just a usurper, Guy declared while giving Tenten and Naruto hand signs behind his back. We will see how long you can keep saying that. Annihilate that group. They have no chance, Doto ordered. Nadar, get me Koiki alive. Yes, sire, Nadar replied, and the man vanished from his position, while the walls of the wagons were lifted up and hundreds of kunai launchers were revealed. The barrage of kunai was in the hundreds within 2 seconds. Thankfully they had been prepared for something like this. Ice release. Ice wall, Haku said and slammed his hand onto the snow, raising a massive wall of ice in front of the group. Wind release. Great breakthrough, Naruto added and sent a high number of kunai off course. The fire was continued though. Then Tenten shot back and hit the wagon with kunai that had explosive tags hanging from them. Naruto had intentionally made them stronger than normal to have a chance to take out large targets. Tenten hit the 4 wagons in the middle perfectly, and the tags blew them up, the shockwave also influencing the wagons in the back. Doto reacted by disconnecting them from the front part, and having the engine pull the wagons in the front onwards on the track. Sadly, Tenten's explosive tags to the bridge didn't do too much damage, as the train managed to pull all but 1 wagon forward. Naruto shot into the air using his cloak and unleashed a tornado directly in front of the engine, which caused it to fall from the track. It cost a lot of chakra, as the engine was heavy, but he had more than enough chakra for this. Then he had to defend himself against the dragon made out of snow, which was controlled by Nadar. Insect, Nadar insulted him, "I'll make you pay." Snow release, snow prison. Around Naruto pillars of hardened snow appeared. He avoided each of them and cut 2 apart to avoid getting trapped in the middle. Wind release, wind shuriken. Naruto countered and sent countless invisible shuriken at his opponent. Snow release, snow uprising. Nadar called out, and a mass of snow shot upwards to intercept the shuriken. Lightning release, hunting wolf. Naruto used another jutsu, one that his sensei had taught him. A wolf made of lightning shot from his hand towards Nadar. Nadar ran from the jutsu. Probably he realized that this jutsu was actually dangerous, as too much lightning fried any kind of machine, which his suit actually was. He barely got away and Naruto sent out 20 shadow clones to engage in taijutsu, knowing that ninjutsu was only indirectly useful. It had to have an effect on the environment, or hit the few places on the body not covered by the suit to be really effective. That meant his best bet was sneaking a flying Thunder God seal onto Nadar to take him out. He also made a second group of 5 clones that used the Mirage Jutsu to sneak up to Doto to get him if possible. While Naruto was busy with Nadar, the rest of the group and the film crew, which was hidden higher up, using the chance to film the battle for their movie, were doing their best to protect Koyuki. She was not responsive and frightened by the attack. Even if currently there were no kunai flying towards her position, then about 10 ninjas suddenly appeared from the snow, attacking their group. Nobody had noticed them sneaking up to them. Guy and Lee sprang into action, while Niji and Haku were ready to protect Koyuki from any that got past them. Tenten was locked in combat with a kunoichi that used a sword, countering her sword with one of her arsenal. Guy knocked 2 opponents out at once, knocking their heads together, while Lee's opponent had a painful meeting with a tree after a Konoha whirlwind kick to the head. Then Haku had ice shackles appear from the snow, surprising 3 of the group, slowing them down for a while. He immediately added more walls of ice around Koyuki to keep the thrown weapons from hitting her. Niji remembered what had been known about the suits and didn't bother aiming at the body of his opponents, which were protected. Instead he aimed at their faces. He was easily able to dodge their attacks, mainly snow and ice-based jutsus. Haku was much better at using those jutsus. There was a clear difference between a bloodline limit for the element and simple manipulation of something that was there. 2 fell for not being careful enough. 2 of the ones that Haku had caught got free, only to meet with Guy and Lee, who showed them that their taijutsu was far superior to anything the snow ninjas were capable of. And fighting on snow wasn't any disadvantage for them. Their team had trained to fight on any kind of surface, as Guy proclaimed that a good ninja had to be ready to fight at any time. One ninja unsealed a snowboard from his backpack and tried getting past the protectors with speed, but Niji was too aware of his surroundings with his Byakugan activated to fall for it. He got Koyuki out of the way and Haku then turned the snow into ice and had it throw the snowboarder into the air, where Tenten sent a barrage of kunai, having a moment of breathing space in her fight with the swordswoman. Amur or not, it took that ninja out of the fight, as it hit the man with the power of 7 explosive tags that were attached to them. Even the armor couldn't take that kind of damage. Naruto's clones finally managed to land a solid hit on Nadar, and one attached a seal tag with the Flying Thunder God formula on the man's back. The group of 5 had been more successful and had already placed tags onto the wagon in which Doto was and on 2 of the ninjas that stayed close to him. It never hurt to place more tags than necessary. Prepare flight mode. Doto ordered one of the ninjas around him and the man left to do whatever flight mode activation included. Thankfully nobody noticed him. It was clear that without the suits the snow ninjas were no real threat to the Konoha group. Only the annoying ability to cancel out any chakra-based attacks made it hard to deal with them. And thankfully, they had a team that could work around that issue. Now they only needed to protect the princess, and keep her away from her bastard of an uncle. and then get her over her trauma to have a good daimyo in her for her country. But that could be dealt with later on. When Nadar prepared his next jutsu against Naruto, the original disappeared from his position and quickly dealt with the leader of the snow ninjas by cutting his throat with a kunai the split second after flashing to the seal on his back. The remaining snow ninjas seemed to be in shock, seeing their leader being defeated by a teenager. Guy and the others immediately took advantage of that, and only 3 managed to escape using the body flicker. The others were either dead or unconscious. Doto's wagon then was turned into an airship, and he looked down at the Konoha group and Koyuki. Suddenly a grappling hook shot out and took Koyuki, lifting her into the air. Before Niji and Haku could react to the maneuver, "While you may have defeated my ninjas, I have the prize," Doto laughed, only for it turning into a frown when the rope holding the hook was cut by Naruto with a wind jutsu, and he caught Koyuki in his arms, flying a little below the airship. Then he flashed away, only to reappear next to the rest of the Konoha group. "I may have lost this round, but we now have more information. I will get that crystal and get the Kazahana treasure," Doto mumbled while the airship rose and took the group away, back to the fortress. He needed a new plan. The Konoha group, the film team and Koyuki reached the safe house of the rebellion about an hour after the battle. Haku administered some medical treatment to those that needed it, and Guy praised everybody for a youthful performance in protecting the princess. The film crew was very happy with the material that they had got during the battle, and the director gushed how it would look fantastic in the movie. "Well, tonight we will rest, but tomorrow we will launch an attack against the fortress when they don't expect it. We can't become too sure of ourselves. While we earned a deserved victory, the longer we wait, the more time Doto has to find an unyouthful way to counter us," Guy said. "We will fight with the whole power of youth and free this country from its unyouthful leader," Lee shouted, pumping his fist into the air. "You're right, Lee. That's the spirit I want to see," Guy shouted back. "Guy-sensei," Lee replied, moved. "Lee," Guy exclaimed. "Guy-sensei, Lee, Guy-sensei." Both ran towards another with manly tears in their eyes, hugging, unleashing the sunset genjutsu of youth. Tenten and Niji were already used to the madness, and had closed their eyes and held their hands over their ears to be spared. Naruto was quick on the uptake and copied their actions. The one to not react quickly enough was Koyuki, and thanks to treating her, Haku also got the full blast of the jutsu. "Ga!" Both Koyuki and Haku screamed. The scream of the princess made the guards outside of the room come inside running, only to be caught as well. It ended with 7 traumatized people, Lee and Guy having bumps on their heads complimentary of Tenten, who was reprimanding them of not unleashing that horrible genjutsu on innocent people, and Haku freezing their green jumpsuits in revenge. "Wow, that must be a really devastating jutsu," the film director said. "Can you repeat that for the camera so that we can use it as an attack against the main villain?" "No!" Tenten, Haku, and surprisingly Niji all shouted. "I fear if you had that in the movie, you wouldn't be able to let children watch it," Naruto stated, which made the film director relent, "but it bears potential of traumatizing the enemy with it." "Even they don't deserve that, Naruto," Haku declared. "Not even Zabuza would have been that cruel. And for your information, Ibiki and Enko have asked to use it for their work, but it traumatized the victims too much to be useful in T&I. "Too bad," Naruto relented. Lee and Guy pouted over the criticism for their showing of manly feelings. Doto was furious. His plan to snatch Koyuki had been thwarted, mostly thanks to that boy, Naruto, being able to fly somehow. There was no device that he used, no sign of something like the wings that some of the chakra armor had, so how did he manage that? He wore normal clothes as well, so they couldn't be the secret. He didn't like it at all that somebody could undo one of his major advantages, being able to take any fight to the air and keeping out of range of most jutsus. He also cursed that Nadar had been killed. Nadar had done well in his fight, and normally the boy would never have been able to kill him, if it wasn't for that cursed jutsu of the yellow flash. The Flying Thunder God jutsu enabled the one using it to appear in any place where he left a seal from one split second to the next, and the moment of surprise was too large for anybody to properly react. The yellow flash had been known as the fastest ninja alive, and now his son had proven to have mastered the jutsu as well. No wonder that IWA had put such a high bounty on his head. Even if, as far as he had found out, they didn't actively hunt the boy down, many others had also placed the boy as an A-rank threat, just because of that one jutsu. And then there were the power of his other jutsus, and his quick wit in battle. That boy wasn't special Jonin for nothing with just 13 years of age. He needed to find a way to get one of their chakra-suppressing devices onto him, or he would pose a bigger problem than Guy, the one full Jonin on the team. The question was, how to do it. He ordered all Jonin of the Snow Village to be brought to him to discuss a plan to counter the abilities of the Konoha team, now that they knew more. Let's see if 6 Konoha ninjas could stand up against the full might of Snow Country's ninja force. You could defeat any opponent. You only needed to find the perfect opponent. This wasn't over by far, and if the Konoha group believed that, they would get a rude awakening. Chapter 38. Attacking the Fortress. It was 8 in the evening, the day after the massive defeat of Doto's forces by the Konoha team. He was halfway through the first preparations to counter the attack that would logically follow. He had got reports of 4 flying Thunder God seals being found in the base, which meant that they could at least determine that Naruto had been part of the ones infiltrating the fortress. Everything else didn't make sense. The problem was, they couldn't be absolutely sure that those were the only seals placed inside the fortress. The boy couldn't be underestimated, just like it had been with his father. That could only end in defeat, and Doto couldn't afford more of them in the near future. He really hadn't expected something like this when he had heard that Princess Koyuki had been identified as Yuki Fujike's. The best part of that was that she had been set to come to Snow Country as part of the film crew for the next Princess Gale movie. It had seemed so easy to finally obtain the hexagonal crystal then, and to finally establish his undisputed rule over Snow Country. One ninja team from Konoha shouldn't have made that much of a difference. But it had. They had underestimated the team massively. His best ninjas were killed or captured. Even Nadar, the undoubtedly strongest of the snow ninjas, had lost against Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. For the second time in his plans to take over the country from his useless brother, he had been thwarted by a Konoha ninja. First, Kakashi Hatake, the new Godame Hokage, had saved Koyuki when she had been a child and had got her out of the country before he could lock down the borders. He had lost track of Koyuki after that during the consolidation of his power base, and making the people see that he was now their daimyo. And now another young Konoha ninja had prevented that. He got Koyuki and the thrice-damned crystal into his hands. He was sure that they didn't know the importance of the crystal, but it was infuriating. He had increased the guards. Nobody would be able to get close to him. It was clear that he would be a prime target for the coming attack. He had also strengthened the security around the laboratory. He didn't want that his blueprints got into the hands of the Konoha group. One day where there hadn't been any alarms about anybody being in close proximity to the labs that didn't belong, there wasn't enough for them to steal anything of importance so far. But if they launched a real attack, it was only a question of time until they got in there. And he couldn't afford that Konoha got the secret to his success. They were annoying enough as it was. His call for backup from the Snow Village was already out, and the reinforcement troops of specialists that could counter the Konoha team's abilities better than the ones he had previously tasked with the job would arrive later tonight. It was an unfortunate disadvantage to having the fortress and the village being separated locally, but the reason was sound. If somebody attacked one location, the other one could still react and act as a new headquarters for the defenders. The only reason why he had been able to take over the country was that the snow ninjas had been unhappy with his brother's plans to reduce their numbers. He watched from his throne how the change of guards took place. It was the normal, disciplined act. The identification of the seals on the lower arms was done as perfectly as always. It was a great security measure. Nobody would be able to sneak past those guards. And if somebody tried, they would be stopped immediately. Then he saw that his dinner had arrived. Previously he had always taken his dinner in his rooms, but right now, he didn't have the time to do that. He needed to be constantly available to confirm plans and discuss strategies with his new leaders, as they weren't experienced enough in what they did. He had somebody perform the normal scans of the food, the waiters that brought the food, and asked for the current passcodes before they were allowed inside. Then he stood from his throne and went over to a table that was normally used for strategy discussions. A small space was cleared for him to sit down and eat in peace. He looked at the dishes and had to smile. The cook really knew his preferences. It was clearly his favorite food. Probably the cook wanted to earn points with him by serving this food at a time where he was stressed. Well, he would positively remember it. He took the first bite and had to suppress a moan of delight. The steak was fried to perfection. The potatoes au gratin that were served with it were also delicious. He enjoyed his meal a lot while the waiters made sure that his glass was always filled, though he refrained from drinking more than one glass of wine, as he needed to stay sober tonight. He took some imported fruit juice instead after the one glass he allowed himself. With the climate of Snow Country being what it was, fruit juice was nearly as much of a luxury as wine was. Then, when he had finished his meal, he went back to his throne, calling his commanders of the forces at the fortress to him. They needed to clear the plans for the night. They still didn't have full forces back, thanks to the attack. None of the ones hit by the senbons in the neck were up for work now, and the replacements that he had called in already were not used to the discipline that was practiced at the fortress yet. Well, at least they had managed to get a large number of suits transported here. This way even the weaker soldiers had a small chance against the Konoha ninjas. Naruto was hidden under his mirage jutsu again. Haku and the others were waiting at the prison area of the fortress. It seemed that the screens for his flying Thunder God seals hadn't included that area, which was actually quite stupid. It was logical from a ninja's point of view to have a way to free captured comrades from the very place the enemy would keep them if you had a chance to arrange it. Naruto had simply placed 2 seals onto the inside of the bars of 2 prison cells. That got them out of sight, but still easily accessible by Naruto's jutsu. And the best part was that, because of being underground, the seals that provided protection to the fortress and alarmed the guards to their entry didn't work properly. It was a huge blind spot, especially as Niji had determined that the entrances to the canalization of the fortress was outside of the barrier, and then led inside without guards making sure that nobody could use that entrance. While there were seals to fry anybody that touched the grills that separated the pipe leading inside from the accessible places with a huge charge of electricity, not to mention that for any non-ninja getting there would be impossible, with it being at the bottom of a steep cliff that had been secured with several traps. For a good ninja, with abilities of about Chunin rank, it was fairly easy to get down there to enter. And as a Fuinjutsu master, Naruto could easily circumvent the lightning seals at the grills. His were far more advanced. Naruto had transported Niji, Haku and Tenten into the prison area while Guy and Lee were going through the other entrance to not have their groups sitting in one place in case they were noticed. They had the counter seals on their persons that would allow them to have the electricity be channeled to the side. It wouldn't trigger any alarms that might go off if the electricity was turned off, which would let them get further inside before they would be detected. Naruto had then flashed to a second seal that hadn't been noticed so far, one hidden under a board of the kitchen storage room. He had kept hidden and at a good moment slipped into the group of those that were working at the dinner for Doto, and the other people at the fortress under a transformation. Nobody but 2 people that had special security clearance were allowed to get close to Doto's food, but that wasn't what Naruto was after anyway. His target had been the silver serving plate on which the normal plate would be put, and then covered with a silver cap before being taken to Doto's throne room. He had easily been able to carry the plate to the serving wagon and unnoticed by anybody had placed a seal under it. One that was written in invisible ink. This would give him access to the throne room at any time, as the seal, once it touched another surface, would be transferred to it, thanks to a second formula surrounding the flying Thunder God one. He really loved Fuinjutsu. Koyuki and Sandaime were at the safe house waiting with 30 of Naruto's shadow clones. They had decided that for the surprise attack to work out, they couldn't spare any of them as guards, but with Naruto's ability to make as many clones as he wanted to, they would manage. Especially as Koki now wore a bracelet with a sealing formula on it that would not only allow him to flash to her side in an instant if he was needed, it also created a strong barrier that would block any kind of attack on her. She was as safe as they could make her. The idea of her leading a strike against her uncle was ridiculous, and they had told Sandaime in no uncertain terms that they wouldn't endanger the life of the princess in an attack that she wasn't ready for. Koyuki was very pleased to hear that part. She could agree with dealing with the cleaning up after Doto was dealt with, but she didn't want to die for a country she had fled from as a child and where she still had nightmares about. A country where spring didn't exist. She wanted to continue being an actress, even if she took over as daimyo. She had decided that while she was willing to rule Snow Country officially, if they really managed to get rid of Doto, there would be others that took care of the day-to-day work while she continued her career as an actress. While Sandaime wasn't too happy about it, it was definitely an improvement to before. They had planned to strike when the guard change took place. Guy and Lee would provide a distraction by going through the pipes and taking out any opponent that got in their way. Then Niji, Haku and Tenten would go up from the prison area and start on their part. His job would be taking Doto out, as he was the one with the best abilities in stealth, not to mention that he could flash to his seal that would now be on Doto's table in the throne room. He had got this job. There was no doubt that Doto would have his own version of the suits that all snow ninjas wore, so they needed to take him by surprise and from a place he didn't expect they could get into. He looked at his wristwatch and finally the time for the planned attack arrived. He could hear that some guards were called downstairs for an attack coming in from the pipes, getting closer very fast. Well, it seemed Guy and Lee had started. He flashed away from his position right into the throne room. Haku led Niji and Tenten into the fortress. They made sure to stay hidden for as long as possible. They knew that Lee and Guy were already busy with their distraction, and they had to take out as many guards as possible. With the corridors mostly being long and straight, it was perfect for Tenten and Haku to attack, while Niji could give them information where their targets would appear. Both Haku and Tenten would keep to thrown weapons as long as possible, as there might be chakra detectors around. With how technologically advanced Snow Country was, it wouldn't surprise any of them. Group of 5 coming into target range in 15 seconds, Niji told them softly. Haku and Tenten were ready. They fired their weapons when the group turned around the corner, and Tenten took 3 down and Haku 2. Niji confirmed that they were down for good, and the group proceeded. 10 coming up from the left, Niji informed them, 7 from the right coming closer as well. I take left, you take right, Tenten addressed Haku. All right. Niji, take those that get past our weapons. Haku nodded and got a nod in return. The weapons flew as soon as the guards turned around the corner. Trespasser at level 3. One guard managed to shout into his communicator before he fell to one of Tenten's shuriken to the throat. Well, that has our position compromised. Let's make most of it, Haku declared. Yes, I have some seals that I got at the armory that Dark Phoenix recently developed that I've been dying to test, Tenten agreed giddily. Yes, that would be a good idea. I have one that I was asked to test as well, Niji nodded. Haku didn't know what kind of seals they had, but he knew that Dark Phoenix was supposedly a genius with few ninjutsu, and his contributions to the armory of Konoha had improved their power in battle as well as the duration for which a ninja could fight immensely. Doto commanded the soldiers in his throne room when he got the information that the attack that he had been waiting for had been started. He should have known that the pipes would be a weak point, but he had honestly forgotten that the outlet was outside of the barrier, a costly mistake that would need to be rectified as soon as they had countered the attack. If those Konoha ninjas thought that he would lose at his home turf, the fortress that he had changed to his ideas, they were dead wrong. He would show them how their arrogance would be their downfall. Send battalions 8 and 12 to intercept the attack, he called out, and be on guard in case this is a distraction for a second attack from another spot. Yes, Lord Doto, many exclaimed and ran off to get to their positions. The elite guards would stay at all times to stop any direct attack on him. He had to wait for about 10 minutes to get first reports. Team 8 is down to 10 men. There are 2 confirmed attackers. From descriptions they are Guy and the boy that resembles him so much, one soldier manning the communicator station reported. Then the others are somewhere else. At least one will be guarding Koike, but the others will attack from a second point. Don't drop your guard, Doto demanded. Lord Doto, report from Patrol 23. Contact with the enemy on level 3, he got the next bit of information, no information on identities. Is C. Send battalions 13, 20 and 26 there to intercept. We have to suspect that Naruto is on the second team. We can't afford to underestimate his ability to take down smaller groups quickly. His father was famous for taking down whole armies in seconds with that cursed flying thunder god jutsu, Doto ordered. Then suddenly a hail of kunai appeared from the table with the maps on it, and screams of pain followed within the next 2 seconds. Guards! Was the one thing Doto could shout before he found himself being hit with at least 10 senbons to the face and neck. Be happy that we want information from you, or you'd be dead by now, he heard a voice next to him, and then blackness took over. Naruto was happy how easily he had managed to get into the throne room. He acted as soon as he arrived and had got an overview where the guards and Doto were positioned. He threw a flurry of kunai with the seals and flashed around the room from one kunai to the next in less than 3 seconds to kill them all where they stood. It was simply too dangerous to leave them alive, not when he needed to capture Doto. The one chance he had were his poisons. He had 10 senbons ready once he had cut the throat of the last guard he noticed. Thankfully the flying thunder god jutsu slowed his perception down, similar to the Sharingan's ability to estimate movement actually, which had been an inspiration to his father when he created the jutsu. The other was the summoning jutsu. When the senbons hit, he had to grin. This had been much easier than expected, even with the moment of surprise being on his side. Doto fell down, drugged, and Naruto quickly threw 4 kunai with sealing tags at the 4 corners of the door frame. It activated a barrier that would keep backup outside until he was gone again. He sealed the body of Doto into a prisoner scroll. It would be up to Koike to publicly execute him when she took over as daimyo. That man was a traitor and traitors needed to be permanently taken out, and by doing it in front of the people, it would make clear that another attempt at the Kazahana royal family, by then only Koike, would be met with the harshest penalty. Naruto flashed away again, locking onto the seal he had on Haku's sleeve. He would get the other 3 out, now that their main goal had been met. A moment later he appeared to a battle which was clearly going in favor of his comrades. Niji was racing through the lines of soldiers, simply tapping them with a finger, making them fall down. Haku had another group at the mercy or her 1,000 flying water needles, and Tenten was a little back and hit with deathly accuracy with shuriken and kunais. He could see that there were many tied up in sticky nets that originated from seals tied to kunai that were stuck in the walls. It seemed that Tenten had used one of his newer seals. Spider net seals to be precise. He grinned. It was good to see that they worked like they should in battle. The seals were set up to activate if they got close enough to a chakra source not keyed into the seals. After all, you didn't want to hit your allies with a seal like that in battle. The net would drag the one it hit to the nearest surface and tie him up there thanks to the substance used in the seal being as hard as steel once it hardened. Which only took 10 seconds after being exposed to oxygen. Then he watched Honiji shot a chakra beam along the corridor, stopping the reinforcements by forcing them to dodge. That also was one of his new creations. A seal that turned a chakra burst from the part of the body where it was placed into a beam that could fly at distant targets. He had developed it with the Hyuga clan in mind, as they were masters of the gentle fist, which included chakra injections from their fingers. The problem of many Hyugas was long-distance battle, as they didn't want to learn normal ninjutsu, being too proud of their gentle fist. But this way, they were basically just augmenting their existing techniques, which made them much more dangerous fighters than before. Naruto helped out with a wind jutsu, which also served as a signal to the others to get to him to get out of the fortress. There was no need to fight against everybody that was currently stationed inside the fortress while Naruto had already fulfilled his part of the mission. Tenten was the first to step next to him, then Niji and Haku followed. They all took hold of him, and he transported them away, leaving the soldiers shocked how easily they had been trounced and how helpless they had been in stopping their opponents to get away unharmed. Once Naruto had Haku's team back at the hideout, he teleported to Guy's position and got him and Lee, even if they had dealt with their opponents decisively. Both were ranting about being in the springtime of youth, and Naruto simply took hold of them to get back to their base. He really needed some chakra replenishment. This had taken up a good half of his reserves. Transporting people many times was much harder than simply jumping from one seal to the next. And even that cost a good amount of chakra, which was why nobody besides him and his father had ever truly mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The chakra cost was immense. He knew from his father's journal that he had dealt with the problem by perfecting his chakra control. While he had had large reserves, he wouldn't have been able to jump to more than 5 kunais in a row if not for his perfect chakra control. The creation of the Rasengan was another proof of that. That technique in its full form would cost a lot of chakra normally, but with perfect control, which was ultimately the last step of the jutsu, you could cut down the chakra cost a lot. Naruto himself compensated with more chakra for his lack of perfect control. While he had great control for somebody with his kind of reserves, not to mention a certain fox inside of him, he would never be that perfect without the help of seals. And that simply wasn't worth the hassle. Somebody with reserves rivaling a Biju on his own didn't need to look out for how much chakra he normally used. He could afford to waste a little. Niji and Naruto set to work in interrogating Doto after Naruto had got out his concoctions that worked on getting truthful answers out of those not trained in the higher skills of ninjas. Not to mention after they had stripped him from his chakra armor suit. As expected, he wore an advanced model, which would have been detrimental in interrogation. And to face it, while Doto might have known some ninjutsu, they all doubted that he got around to do interrogation resistance training. He was after all attempting to rule a country, not becoming a full-time ninja. The fighting skills would have been much higher on his agenda than other things. It only took 1 hour, with lots of swearing and threats from Doto, but they got the gist of what reasons the man had for his actions. After all, it made no sense to go after the princess of a country that didn't really plan to return, had she not been tricked and basically kidnapped. Doto was after the family treasure of the Kazahanas, and the crystal that Koiki always wore around her neck was the one existing key to it. The two got the location of the place where the key had to be inserted to unlock the secret hiding place. Thanks to some recording seals, which the film crew had paid a major sum to Naruto to have them do some recording of the battles inside the fortress for the movie just needed an impressive conclusion. The revelation of the treasure of the royal family, after the main villain had been defeated and captured, was perfect. So Koiki, accompanied by some royal guards, the film crew and the Konoha team, agreed to go there to see what kind of treasure her father had left for her to find. They used some sleighs to get there, and the journey was filmed as well. Doto was also taken along, of course tied up securely, just to make sure to get his defeated impression when he finally got to see the treasure that would now never be his. Koiki stepped up to the slot where the crystal had to be inserted. She pulled the necklace from around her neck and then pushed the crystal into the slot. Nothing happened. Shouldn't something happen? Koiki asked Doto. Yes, he growled, but looked surprised as well. Wait, do you hear that? Naruto asked, taking guarding position next to Koiki. The others heard a low rumbling as well now. Then some parts of the ice covering the hills around them broke and fell down. There's something under the ice, Tenten pointed out. Yes, and it's getting freed, Niji confirmed. There's a lot of chakra in the air. It's also getting warmer, Naruto commented. Everybody was then surprised when a hologram was projected above their heads. One of Koiki when she had been younger, and her father. Koiki looked stricken, seeing the memory of her father, when he told her that one day spring would come to Snow Country. And her declaration that she would both be an actress and a daimyo. For the first time in years, real tears ran down her cheeks. No, that can't be the Kazahana treasure. Doto shouted, this isn't a treasure, this is rubbish. What kind of treasure are heat generators? For the people of Snow Country this will be the greatest treasure they could receive, Naruto countered calmly. For a country that never saw spring, these heat generators will finally push back the eternal cold. While the snow won't leave forever, you'll be able to grow plants, supply your people with food from your own country, and won't be dependent on other countries selling you those things for high prices. And with the rightful daimyo back, there will finally be peace. Well said, Naruto. I will make sure that my father's dream comes true. And like I already decided as a child, I'm going to do both. Be an actress and rule Snow Country, Koiki declared. Naruto smiled at her. It seemed that deep down there had still been a part of Koiki that wanted to help her people. But not at the price of her life, which she had rightfully feared being on the line, should she come back to this country. I guess then you have a coronation to organize, Naruto chuckled. Yash, what a youthful end to a hard mission. Lee shouted. Thankfully Niji and Haku prevented that the infernal sunset genjutsu of youth could be triggered. Nobody wanted to have that on tape. The coronation was grand. After Doto was publicly judged and then executed for his crimes, those being high treason against Snow Country, murder of the previous daimyo, assault against the new daimyo, and a few more that weren't as damning, the remaining parts of the troops that had served under him were arrested and locked up. Those that had simply followed orders because they didn't see another way to survive might be reinstated as guards, but Koiki planned to change things a lot. She wouldn't allow the oppression of the people. Her inauguration as daimyo was greeted with happiness all around her. She knew that she would have to fight a high number of battles in the future, as there were many that had profited from Doto's actions, but she had got the loyalty oaths from the leaders of the Snow Ninja Village, not to mention that she would soon sign an alliance treaty with Fire Country. This would be a major political coup, as under Doto Snow Country had lost most of their previous allies. Koiki appeared to the Konoha group once the official part of the coronation was over. I really want to thank you for all your work in freeing my country. And having patience with me. I know I wasn't the easiest person to protect, she admitted. No, certainly not, but we can understand the reason why, Naruto accepted. I'm especially grateful to you, Naruto. You made Sandaime see that his strategy was faulty, and were essential in taking down my uncle. How about you move here and become head of my ninja guards? Koiki offered. The others gasped. Such an offer was incredible. It was a high honor to be offered something like that. And the daimyo of Fire Country would definitely make it happen, should Naruto ask for it. It would improve the relations between Fire Country and Snow Country massively, should one of Konoha's most prolific upcoming ninjas be accepted as leading guard to the new daimyo. Your offer honors me, Koiki, but sadly I have to decline, Naruto said formally. I fear I would be bored just having to watch out for threats against you. I want to reach the top among the ninjas in the world and one day surpass my father. For that I need to become stronger, and I can't do that in a position like commander of your ninja guard. I'm also just 13 years old. I need to grow and learn more by experience. I know that I'm really strong for my age, but I need to become even stronger to be able to take on the really powerful ninjas out there. I suspected that you might say something like that, Koiki huffed. Well, you all will always be welcome whenever you come back to Snow Country, though we're having a vote of renaming it Spring Country coming up next week. And maybe, perhaps in the future I can recruit you away from Konoha. She grinned mischievously and kissed the surprised Naruto on the cheek. Then she walked away and cheerily gave some children autographs that they asked for. Wow, talk about going to high places, Tenten commented. Not everybody can claim having got a kiss from a beautiful daimyo, Haku added. Yash, such a youthful thing to happen to you, Naruto. Lee exclaimed loudly, causing some stares going into their direction. Naruto just nodded. He really hadn't expected the kiss. but in some way he was happy about it. It was the first time that somebody had kissed him voluntarily. Chapter 39, A Dangerous Situation. Kakashi listened closely to the report that Guy gave on the successful mission. He was glad about his face mask, as it hid his urge to grin hearing how his student had played a large part in the success of the mission, not to mention that Naruto getting some well-deserved acknowledgement, and probably causing a new alliance for Fire Country and Konoha to be created would look very good on his mission record. Few ninjas could say this about their missions. Now Naruto had already saved 2 countries. Indeed impressive. I'm glad that the mission turned out like that, and that you managed to get the rightful ruler of the newly dubbed Spring Country back onto her rightful throne. Very good work, team, Kakashi commented once Guy was done. I'm looking forward to seeing the offer of an alliance that you mentioned coming in. It would also benefit the village greatly if we could set up constant trading agreements with Spring Country. I am sure that the daimyo will also compliment you for the results. Now I would like to speak with Naruto about the blueprints that he got for our research department. All others are free to go. You can take a week off from duty before you have to take the next mission. Haku, Tenten, Niji, Lee and Guy bowed and left the office while Naruto remained. Kakashi dismissed his ANBU guards and activated the privacy seals. How much did you manage to take with you, Naruto? Kakashi asked. Everything they had in their high-security safe, sensei, Naruto answered after taking a seat. He knew that this would take longer. I think besides the chakra armor, we could also get a lot of use out of the plans for the train system. Not only for military purposes, but also for simple transport of goods. It would cut the time of getting things to the village down a lot, and that could be useful for both our military supplies as well as civilian products. We could also ask for a nice fee for letting civilians use our train system. Alone a connection between Konoha and the capital would be immensely valuable. Not a bad idea, Naruto. I will certainly discuss this with the daimyo during our next meeting. From the report I managed to gather that some of your new seal designs passed the test successfully? Kakashi half-asked half-stated. Yes, the net seals are very useful in a battle when you want to detain your opponent, and not kill him. The seal that was created with the Hyuga clan in mind was also a success. Niji used it to great effect. It takes one of the Hyuga's main weaknesses away. I have some more ideas from the mission for new seals as well. I will use the next week to work some of them out, and then present them to you, Naruto told his sensei. That sounds promising. I'm looking forward to seeing them. Did you have any trouble with Haku? This was the first mission he went on with somebody that was directly involved in the mission that got him captured and Zabuza killed, Kakashi wanted to know. No, Haku worked well with me when we infiltrated the fortress and never showed any kind of animosity against me. Even if I was the one to defeat and capture him back then, Naruto answered, he did his part of the mission perfectly. That's good to know. While we were already quite sure of the 3 really having changed sides, there were some concerns left over Haku's feelings towards those directly involved in the Wave Country mission. Good to see that we can lay them to rest. While they will still be watched, we can reduce the number of watchers now with that report, Kakashi stated satisfied. Naruto just nodded. Then he was surprised to have a scroll thrown at him. What is this, sensei? Naruto asked. A sealing matrix that one of our teams came across when they were on a mission. We don't know yet what it truly means, which is why I want you to have a look at it, Naruto. I would give you the same full week of free time as the others, but this is urgent. The scroll arrived yesterday and the team is waiting for our response on how to proceed with their mission, Kakashi stated. Naruto opened the scroll and then analyzed the sealing matrix before blanching. Sensei, where did they find that seal? Naruto asked strained. The team is inside Fawn Country to investigate the vanishing of a number of people that never reappeared anywhere. What is that seal about? Kakashi asked. This is a variant of a summoning jutsu. A dangerous one at that. Where a normal summoning jutsu requires a small amount of blood to call an animal that you have a contract with, this one is based on the Jashin cult. The seal basically, once a certain amount of human blood is sacrificed, will call a reaper spirit that will fuse with the one using the summoning array. Supposedly, if the ritual is performed correctly, the summoner will become a high priest of Jashin, a reaper spirit that the Jashinists call a god, and be immortal. As far as I know, from what I found in Orochimaru's notes, as little as there was about the group, you need at least 50 victims for the ritual, Naruto stated. Crap, that's really serious. Jashinists are already a pest before they are impossible to kill. We need to send backup to the team immediately. No normal Chunin team can take on a skilled Jashinist, Kakashi cursed. The massacre of the hidden Hot Springs village 10 years ago was bad enough. We don't need another Haiden. The crazy priest that enjoys his religion too much? He's an S-ranked missing nin, Naruto asked. Yes, that one. He was behind the massacre that caused the hidden hot springs village to fully change their village into a tourist attraction, using the large number of natural hot springs that the country had to earn money. They were a very small village anyway, and after Haiden was done there, the number of active ninjas was too low to call themselves a hidden village anymore anyway. So far the number of Jashinists is low, as their rights involve self-injury and not many want to do that. But the crazy ones that actually follow them are really dangerous, as they don't care about the number of innocents that they kill, all to please their so-called god, Kakashi confirmed. Naruto pondered the situation. Sensei, please let me go and back up the team in Fawn Country. I am probably the only one that can undo the sealing matrix before they activate it and create another immortal priest, Naruto asked. We can't let this get out. After a long A-rank mission like yours, you need to rest for at least 2 days, normally the week that I gave your team off. But I agree that this is an emergency. I will send you there as Dark Phoenix. That way nobody should find it strange that you are doing 2 A-rank missions after another without a break. The fastest way to get there would be sending one of your kunai ahead and flashing there. But we don't want anybody to find out your identity. Kakashi pondered the problem. Fawn Country is about a day at ninja speed away, Naruto mentioned. I could fill up my supplies in 1 hour and then take off. You could send a messenger hawk ahead to inform the team leader that I'm coming and to not, at any circumstances, let somebody with a large scythe pour blood anywhere near the seal. I don't know how many victims they have assembled already, but we should act fast. True. I'm going to send for Shikamaru and Hinata to support you. Shikamaru will be valuable to trap the Jashinists, and Hinata can help you as a scout and be the team's medic, Kakashi decided. It will be a challenge to keep Shikamaru out of the loop, Naruto commented. I'm sure you'll manage. After all, you managed to keep everybody in the dark for years while you trained in secret, Kakashi told him with one of his eye smiles. Point, Naruto admitted. I'll have the 2 here in 1 hour, Kakashi stated, and Naruto nodded, using the Flying Thunder God's seal in his secret hideout to save time to go there. I really envy him for having that ability, Kakashi mumbled and called his assistant in to get Shikamaru and Hinata into his office. 1 hour after Naruto had left, he, in his Dark Phoenix disguise, Shikamaru and Hinata were assembled in Kakashi's office. I have an A-rank mission for you 3, Kakashi informed them, and Shikamaru and Hinata stiffened hearing the rank of the mission. Dark Phoenix will be the team leader, as his expertise with seals is a critical part for this mission. Another Konoha team of Chunins in Fawn Country has found a seal that Dark Phoenix identified as a summoning seal used in Jashinist rituals. Time is of the essence. I would let you take more Jonins with you on the mission, but they are already on other missions or have just returned from another long mission. Your mission is to stop the ritual. If a Reaper spirit can be summoned, we will have to deal with another insane and immortal high priest. Normal Jashinists are already a pain to deal with, but a high priest is a whole other kettle of fish. Dark Phoenix knows the way to disrupt the seal that is needed for the ritual to work. Make sure that he is able to do that. Also take this. He pushed a new edition of the bingo book over to them. You want to read up the entry about Haiden of the former Hot Springs village. He's a known high priest of Jashin and responsible for the end of that country's ninja village, because he used them to fuel his own ritual as far as we know. Naruto nodded and took the bingo book. He leafed through the pages and found the one about Haiden. The man had silver hair, wore a necklace with a symbol that belonged to the Jashin cult around his neck, and carried a scythe around with him. Hinata and Shikamaru memorized his looks as well. There isn't a lot of information about the ways a Jashinist fights, but we know that they can somehow transfer their injuries to another person. Be very careful if you encounter somebody wearing that symbol on their person. I doubt that you would meet an opponent like Haiden, as Jashinists normally work alone, but better safe than sorry, Kakashi seriously declared. Understood, Hokage-sama, Naruto replied, knowing to slip into his Dark Phoenix cover. Alright, you already have your equipment, correct? Yes, Dark Phoenix, Hinata confirmed while Shikamaru just nodded, mumbling how troublesome this mission would be. Good. We will leave immediately. We should be able to reach Fawn Country tomorrow. I have the information about their last known location, and they have been sent a hawk with instructions to wait for us to get there and only to interfere if it seems as if the ritual is about to commence, Naruto told the other two. I will brief you about the other details on the way. The other two nodded and they left the Hokage's office through the door. Kakashi only hoped that they would manage this mission. But he only had guy inside the village who had full Jonin rank, and he wouldn't be suited for this kind of mission. He didn't like the shortage of manpower he currently had, even if the invasion had gone better than could have been hoped for. Naruto set a high pace, which he knew that both Shikamaru and Hinata were capable of following. They moved in triangular formation with Naruto taking point, Hinata behind him to the left, and Shikamaru behind to the right. So, what kind of ritual are we talking about and what are the requisites for it to work? Shikamaru asked. Blood sacrifice of at least 50 people. There have been lots of disappearances of people in Fawn country, which is why the other team was sent there to investigate. The Jashinist that wants to ascend to high priest status has to sacrifice the blood in a certain way to activate the seal, which will then call forth a Reaper spirit. Said spirit will then fuse with the Jashinist and give him the immortality that is so annoying about their high priests. A normal Jashinist simply thrives on killing people in the name of his god Jashin, but you can kill him like any other opponent. They still manage to somehow create a connection with their victims, but they are limited in the kind of damage they can do. There isn't much known about how they create the connection, as most of the ones that fell prey to that died shortly after. A high priest meanwhile has no limits of what kind of injuries he can cause himself to transfer, as he can't die. Which is why Haiden is wanted as an S-rank missing nin. Greatest caution is needed when you engage one of these bastards, Naruto informed them. How are we going to fight against somebody like that? Hinata asked. I have a number of seals on me that will help with it. Close combat against a Jashinist is dangerous, which is why we will try to trap him in some way, depending on how the area is built. We will have to get an idea once we get there. Your shadow manipulation should be very useful in that regard, Shikamaru. You can prevent that the bastard can move and harm anybody while the rest of our team can move in and kill him before he can finish the ritual, Naruto told them. Makes sense. For a full plan we need the information that the other team has collected so far. We should get an idea of how far the Jashinist has come in his preparations, Shikamaru nodded. Hinata, I want you to regularly activate your Byakugan to alarm us in case of somebody closing in on us. I think activating it every 2 minutes for a short look around should suffice once we are in Fawn country, Naruto continued. I will do that, Hinata confirmed. They left the trees to run across a grassy field until they reached the next area with trees, which they jumped up into again to travel unnoticed. Izumo Kamizuki and Kotetsu Higane were waiting for the backup that the Hokage had sent their way. They didn't like the information that their team leader, Shimon Hijiri, had passed on to them about the analysis that Dark Phoenix had given about the seal that they had stumbled about while investigating the disappearing people. It wasn't enough that some strange house seemed to be the cause for them vanishing, now there was also an insane cult involved. Not at all what they had expected when they had been sent on this supposed B-rank mission. When do you think they will arrive? Kotetsu asked. No idea, but if they left Konoha shortly after the hawk that Hokage-sama sent, they should be here soon, Izumo answered. I wonder who they will send. We don't have a lot of jonin available after all. Asuma and Kurenai are busy with that mission in that village east of Konoha. Genma and Yugao are in Wind Country to keep an eye on Suna after their betrayal during the Chunin exams. Guy is in Snow Country. Enko is busy in T&I, as is Ibiki. The clan heads are on reserve to deal with clan business and most others are doing one mission or another. Even our team didn't get a special jonin to lead us after all. And that's the normal procedure for a B-rank mission. True. That invasion cost us a lot of manpower, even if we were victorious. Thankfully we knew beforehand and had a good strategy. Otherwise the number of victims would have been much larger, Kotetsu shuddered. I don't want to imagine it. It was bad enough as it was. With a seal like that involved in our mission, I would guess that they might send a few ninjutsu specialists. Wasn't Naruto one? Izumo mentioned. He was confirmed as a seal master by Jiraiya-sama, that's true, but he's in Snow Country with Guy and his team. I think the new Ice Bloodline Limit user, Haru or Haku was his name I think, was also sent there with the team. Probably a smart decision, as the terrain would be optimal for his jutsus, Kotetsu mentioned. A pity. Hokage-sama could just have sent us one of Naruto's kunai, and he could have teleported to the position like his father did in the past, Izumo sighed. It's amazing if you ask me that nobody ever noticed who his father was. I mean, knowing it, the similarity in their looks is startling. We didn't want to look too closely and the Sandaime did his best to keep Naruto's true identity a secret. I guess that IWA and Kuma would have tried badly to assassinate him had they known. Especially IWA hated the Yondaime, Izumo admitted. Which Fuinjutsu specialists do we have in the village? Kotetsu pondered. Well, Jiraiya-sama, Hokage-sama and Danzo are either masters in Fuinjutsu or proficient. Then there is of course Dark Phoenix, but I doubt that Hokage-sama would send him outside of the village, Izumo commented. Well, I guess we'll find out soon. There is movement over there, Kotetsu pointed to the east, and indeed 3 figures were moving towards their position at high Chunin speed. When they reached their position, the 2 Chunin that were normally stuck with gate duty were surprised. They hadn't expected 2 rookie Chunin and somebody who hid his identity to arrive as their backup. "You're the team Hokage-sama sent?" Izumo asked. "Yes. I'm Dark Phoenix, and I was sent to inspect the seal you found and neutralize it before it can be used," Naruto answered. "My teammates Shikamaru Nara and Hinata Hyuga were chosen to assist with trapping our opponent and being scout and medic for the team." Izumo nodded, really surprised to see the famed Fuinjutsu master that had been the cause for the greatly upgraded stock of the armory with seals of all kinds in person. He really hadn't expected him to be this young. He would guess him to be around 16 going by his height and voice. "Good to have you here. By the way, which rank do you have, just to know where to place you among the chain of command?" Kotetsu wanted to know. "I'm operating with special Jonin rank," Naruto answered, knowing that there were too many secret agents in Konoha that had that rank to be found out by just that. "That would mean you're the highest ranking ninja among our group. Everybody else is Chunin," Izumo mentioned. "I'll leave leading the mission in the hands of the one chosen to lead it, except I need to take command over a specific part related to the seal and the Jashinist that is running around somewhere," Naruto informed them. They nodded and then led the 3 towards their base where the other 2 members of their squad were waiting for them. Chapter 40, Jashinists. Shimon Hijiri looked at the team that had come to back them up on this mission. He really didn't like the things that Dark Phoenix told them about the workings of the seal and what it could cause. "That's truly a mess. How are we going to prevent that?" he asked. "The main problem is that you need to dismantle the whole seal. Once it is set up completely, it's tricky to undo. From the design that you sent to Konoha, this one is finished. They only need to get their sacrifices to the seal to begin. The best way to act is by wrongly triggering the seal, meaning by either giving the wrong kind of sacrifice, fruit juice or something else that is sweet would work perfectly if we can get enough of it here, or by unloading a shitload of water on the seal, which will dissolve the seal's structure with enough time," Naruto explained. "Though the second one takes time, and you can bet that the Jashinist that aspires to become a high priest will notice and attack to protect his seal." "Truly a problem," Shimon agreed. "What if he has already started? We don't know when they will start after all. Then we only have one chance. As soon as the first bit of sacrificial blood has been added to the seal, the process will start, and the rift will be opened to call forth the Reaper spirit. The whole amount of blood will need to be sacrificed for the process to work properly, and seal the Reaper spirit in the Jashinist. But if a rift is open, it is actually dangerous to mess things up if you don't know what to do. You need to have another sealing array prepared and either a team of Fuinjutsu specialists working together to have enough chakra or one Fuinjutsu master that has enough chakra to seal up the Reaper spirit before it can enter the Jashinist. For us this means this: our first plan has to be getting rid of the seal as soon as possible. We only have me, and while I'm a Fuinjutsu master, I would really prefer to not have to fight against the Reaper spirit for dominance through Fuinjutsu. There is no guarantee that it will work the way I planned, and I have never done this before. I have the old Uzumaki seals, thanks to Hokage-sama and Naruto agreeing to let me study them, but I would rather not force the issue," Naruto told them. "I understand. Yes, dealing with an inactive seal would be much easier than having to deal with a Reaper spirit," Shimon agreed, looking sickly. While ninjas had to deal with all kinds of bloodshed in their careers, a spirit was something completely different. You had a damn hard time with some ninjas already, but spirits couldn't be fought with normal ninjutsu. And as Dark Phoenix said, Fuinjutsu was not widely understood on a higher level. "We can go to the seal immediately. I doubt that we can organize the same amount of fruit juice that sacrificing 50 people would get, therefore we have to go with the water blasting. My elemental affinity is water and Kotetsu has it as well, I think." Shimon looked at the younger man. "That's correct," Kotetsu nodded, "but I don't have any wide area water jutsus in my arsenal." "Is there a river close to the seal?" Naruto asked. "No. It's about 3 kilometers away from any source of water, which makes sense if you know how to mess it up," Izumo said. "Then we need to use water storage scrolls to bring enough water there to be used for jutsus. I have 6 prepared on my person and I can make a few more if you give me an hour," Naruto said. "You can fill the 6 that I have up at the river while I work on the others." "Good, we will do that." "Hinata, keep watch and warn us if anybody comes closer," Shimon ordered. "I will," Hinata confirmed the order. Naruto set to work making 5 shadow clones to not give away too much of his abilities while Izumo, Kotetsu and Shikamaru went out to fill the scrolls at the river. There was no time to waste. They didn't know when the Jashinist would attempt his ritual after all. Naruto looked over all of the filled sealing scrolls. They now had 24 filled scrolls full of water. That should be enough to erase the seal on the ground. It would still be hard getting the water on all parts, and then waiting for it to be ruined before the Jashinist interfered. And he would bet that he was close to act. In his place, he wouldn't set up the seal until he was ready to act. It was an unnecessary risk. All right, we need to go, Shimon told the group, and they nodded, setting out immediately to the location of the seal. It was about 15 minutes at running speed away from their camp, which meant that it should be outside of normal senior range. They didn't speak during the run, as they didn't know when an opponent would appear, no matter if Hinata kept watch with her Byakugan. They reached the outer part of the seal, and the new group was shocked how large it actually was. The diameter had to be at least 10 meters. He was busy. Those structures all around weren't there last time. When we found the seal, Kotetsu commented gravely in a low voice. What could they be for? Hinata whispered. There are 25 of them, and from how they look like, they are large enough to hold 2 people each. They are probably for the ritual to tie up the sacrifices, Shikamaru commented. We really need to hurry, Shimon grumbled, set to work. He had just given the order, when the ground outside of the seal broke open and some kind of black vines lifted unconscious people from the ground. The vines then proceeded to stick the people to the structures, hanging with their heads down, and the arms spread to the sides. Then a black-clad woman with long violet hair appeared inside the seal's center, also from the ground, riding on a black vine. She was clad in tight black leggings, high-heeled black boots, a black bra with a blood-red shawl around her otherwise bare upper body. Shit, that has to be the Jashinist, Shimon cursed. Can we still dissolve the seal before she starts? Improbable. Shit, if we only had enough sugar to turn the water sweet, we could try to substitute the blood with something sugary, Naruto cursed. Would treacle do? Izumo asked suddenly. Yes, but where would we get that? Naruto asked. I have a jutsu that turns the ground into treacle. I use it as a trap normally, Izumo answered. I can hide in the treacle and normally attack from it, surprising my opponent. It's probably our best shot. We will use the water to attack the Jashinist. That way we may be able to delay her enough that the seal is ruined. Target the places under the structures first. There are the absorbing parts, Naruto hurriedly replied. Shikamaru, try trapping her in your shadow. Hinata, disable her with your gentle fist. We will only have one proper shot at this, Shimon ordered Kotetsu. You will cover for Izumo while he uses his jutsu. Dark Phoenix and I will attack the Jashinist directly. Understood, they all replied and moved. Ah, the rats that thought they could stop my ascension, the woman greeted them, looking more or less bored. You truly think that you can stop me from becoming a high priestess of God Jashin? She laughed crazily. As if I didn't notice you sneaking around here. Let's see. Konoha pests. How would you like to see how to truly use plants to your advantage? She asked, cackling, and a large number of black vines attacked the group from all kinds of places underground. The Konoha group jumped away to avoid being impaled by the vines. Kotetsu and Izumo tried getting close to the places where the planned sacrifices were held, but the vines were really nasty and sharp as razors. Naruto decided to cut them down, literally. He flew through a sequence of hand seals. Wind release, cutting whirlwind, Naruto whispered and threw his arms outwards while spinning on the spot. Thanks to his mastery over the wind element, he was able to cut down a good number of vines. A problem was that the vines grew back after the initial cutting. Rare to find a wind element of that level, the woman commented, but useless in the long run. She made a few hand seals of her own. Secret art, vine spear barrage, she exclaimed, and had loads of spears made from the black vines shoot at the attacking Konoha team. Water release. Water walls, Shimon cried out, and a large wall of water stopped the spears, but they still got through a good part of the walls that now protected the Konoha shinobi. You are only delaying the inevitable, the woman cackled. Secret art, black vine hell. From all over the ground the vines shot up and raced after the Konoha team. We can't get close, Shikamaru cursed, running next to Hinata to prevent being speared by a vine. This way she will start the ritual before we can take her out. I know, but do you have an idea how to neutralize these vines? They are really annoying, Hinata asked. Not yet. They are too unpredictable in their movements, Shikamaru replied. Do they have their own chakra supply, or is it the chakra of the woman? Let me check, Byakugan, Hinata answered and looked at the vines and how they operated. There seems to be some kind of source of the vines in the ground. It isn't her chakra that moves them. It seems that she controls whatever the source is with her jutsus. Can we reach the source in any way? Shikamaru asked. No, it's right beside the seal and the concentration of vines is strongest there. We would be killed before we get close enough to actually strike at the source, Hinata denied. Damn it all to hell, Shikamaru cursed, and they continued running and jumping out of the way of the vines. Meanwhile, the woman started her ritual, not bothered by the Konoha shinobi, sure in the protection that her jutsu would give her. God Jashin, please accept my sacrifice of blood and allow me into the esteemed ranks of your high priests and priestesses, she started and then went through a long sequence of hand seals. Naruto watched helplessly as the woman finished her hand seals, as he was too busy with dodging and cutting down the vines to actually attack the Jashinist. It would be hard as hell to stop this cursed ritual from starting. This was no simple opponent, it was more than likely a high-rank opponent, and they didn't have any high-ranking Jonin on their team. He was the highest-ranking ninja at Special Jonin. All the others were Chunin, with Hinata and Shikamaru only being rookie Chunin. Well, this would need special jutsus. Those overpowered things that he normally didn't use in battle, as they had the bad habit to blow up in your face. But the vines needed to go so that they could stop the Jashinist. He quickly unsealed one of the flying backpacks that he always carried on his person and activated it, shooting into the air, out of reach of the vines. He flew above the seal and watched how the insane woman made 5 earth clones, which walked over to the captives, a knife in hand. He knew that the woman intended to kill the prisoners to activate the ritual. He needed to prevent that. He sped through the 32 hand seals for this jutsu. It was the only chance he had now. Now the fact that the vines didn't let the others inside was a good thing. Water and lightning release. True thunderstorm, Naruto called out, and used one of the full storage scrolls with water to flood the seal and the Jashinist. The electricity from the lightning chakra that he had molded had charged each part of the water, and his manipulation of the water chakra in combination with the lightning chakra enabled him to control the movement of the water. Right now the Jashinist had to feel thousands of liters of highly charged water hitting her in violent waves, while the water was held back from getting outside by her vines. He could hear her scream. He hoped that the victims, who were tied up on wooden structures, would not be hit by the lightning. But he sadly couldn't be considerate right now. The Jashinist would become a horrible threat, should she manage to become a high priestess. When his jutsu stopped working, he found the woman staggering around, clearly disorientated. He was honestly surprised that she was still alive after a point-blank hit. "You will pay for that!" She screamed and made clones from the water, as the water had destroyed her original clones. But Naruto only had to flare his own chakra to make them fall apart. That water was charged with his chakra, which meant he had full control over it. The problem was, it wasn't enough water by far to dissolve the stupid seal. Just enough for his more powerful ninjutsus. The woman now went through hand seals again and Naruto was confronted with having to maneuver in the air to avoid flying boulders. He also noticed that the vines had lost some speed. That could be a hint on what kind of jutsu it was and how to stop it. He made 2 shadow clones that quickly flew to the sides to find out if the people had survived his attack. When they dispelled, he found out that, while some had been hit, the charge they were hit with had been too small to kill them. They were hurt, but if given medical treatment within the next day, they would recover. And he could set some scheme up to make it look as if he had summoned himself from Konoha via one of the flying thunder god kunai. It was known to a few people that Naruto Namikaze and Dark Phoenix worked on few ninjutsu projects together from time to time. It wouldn't be too hard to explain away. But first this Jashinist had to die. Otherwise any healing wouldn't do these people any good anymore, as they would have been killed already. He took a few pre-made seals from his pouch and used the cover of the boulders to direct them using his wind chakra. The seals only needed to be attached to the woman in some way to work. He needed 2 to make the trap spring. He noticed the first one landing and attaching itself to the right leg of the woman, who thankfully didn't notice the contact. A second one got close, but was intercepted by a boulder that was thrown at him again. 3 more seals were stopped by boulders until finally the last one landed on her bare back. She noticed and grabbed for the seal, but the 2 that had landed activated as soon as they were both on the same body. The seals made pure lightning chakra, about 1000 volts each, shoot through the woman's body. She screamed in pain and Naruto used the now dropping boulders to send out 50 shadow clones to free the captives. If he could get them away from the seal, he could prevent the ritual. To his utter shock, the woman still was alive. "No stupid attack can harm those serving God Jashin," she growled, kneeling on the ground with her whole body shaking. "What a freak," Naruto mumbled. He found that his shadow clones had made short work out of the vines tying the captives up and had transported them out of the seal's range via body flicker. "I will first kill you, then I will kill your team, then I will kill the captives and I will become a high priestess. Then I can finally unite with Haiden, and we can bring back God Jashin in human form. Nothing will stop the rule of Lord Jashin," she cackled in the end. Naruto felt sick, understanding that she planned some sick sexual ritual with the other known high priest of Jashin to become pregnant with a child. He didn't know if it was possible to have child that could bear a god be sired by two high priests, but he would rather not risk finding it out. Suddenly the woman didn't move anymore and seemed to struggle. Naruto found a thin line of shadows connected to her and followed it with his eyes, finding Shikamaru, who was kneeling behind a ceiling barrier that kept the attacking vines from him, and Hinata, at the end. Naruto was glad that the two were safe and had found a way to help him. Probably Hinata had directed Shikamaru with the help of her Byakugan. Then a large fireball slammed into the vines and they burned down before some new ones came from the ground. But the burned vines had given Izumo an opening to cover the seal with treacle. "You didn't think we would leave all the fun to you?" Izumo called out, grinning how his treacle was sucked into the seal. "About time you acted," Naruto called back. "That woman is a freak with how much damage she can take. I doubt she can survive getting cut into small pieces," Shimon commented, raising his sword over his head. The seal seemed to shake as the treacle was absorbed more and more. "Oh, I think the seal has indigestion," Izumo joked. "You won't stop me." The woman screeched and forced her hands to move. Shimon was about to bring his sword down when a large scythe was thrown into the way of the sword, stopping it dead in its tracks. "A pity, Mala, you were so close," a male voice stated. "Now get those F***ing tree huggers killed so we can make you a proper high priestess." "Haiden," the woman called Mala greeted happily. "Shit, the Jashinist high priest," Kotetsu cursed. Haiden gave an imposing sight with his scythe already back in his hand. He emitted self-confidence in each movement. He was also fast and knocked Kotetsu and Izumo away as if they were nothing but annoying flies. Naruto quickly calculated in his mind what to do. The shadow clones had brought the intended victims away, which meant that this Mala needed to find new victims, if he was successful in getting far enough away fast enough. This wasn't an opponent he could deal with. He was good, yes, but this guy was S rank and he wasn't that good. Not without taking him by surprise. The only way to solve this problem was the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, but it bore the risk of giving up his identity. Well, their lives were more important than this secret, and he could avoid letting these two find out. The Konoha team could be sworn to secrecy if he couldn't pull off a ruse. He quickly had 4 clones set up a barrier around the whole seal area, which caused Haiden to swear like a sailor, and Body flickered everybody away. The two would at least be stuck for an hour, which was enough time to get everybody to safety, and the amount of treacle that the seal had sucked up should be enough to prevent a quick activation of the ritual. This needed the ANBU to take over. He reached Shikamaru and Hinata at the same time as Shimon. Kotetsu and Izumo were brought there by the clones. "What now?" "We aren't prepared to take on a high priest that we can't kill," Shimon asked. "The seal won't work properly for about a day, I think, thanks to the amount of treacle Izumo managed to get into it. It wasn't enough to fully shut it down, but it will buy us enough time to call for the ANBU from Konoha. We can't take on an S-rank ninja and expect to win or even survive," Shikamaru stated before Naruto could do it. "He is right. This is far beyond our abilities. The barrier I created will hold them up for a while, and I doubt that Mala will be able to perform the ritual anytime soon with the amount of electricity that I sent through her with my seals and the true thunderstorm jutsu. She's only going on by pure stubbornness. We need to get away with the captives. This will also delay them and give us time to call an ANBU," Naruto pointed out. "Alright, this is the best course of action. But we need to get farther away than our camp, and that will be difficult with the two only being held up for an hour, should they not find a way out of the barrier," Shimon commented. "Say what you want about Haiden, he might be powerful and impossible to kill, but he isn't said to be a smart guy. His tactics are brutal and straightforward. With enough preparation you could take him out of the equation," Shikamaru said, remembering the bingo book entry. "The Hokage and the ANBU will be able to figure out a solution, and it will take them time to find new victims. You don't simply catch 50 people in a short time when there are no larger villages around. Especially as a large-scale operation would call the ninja villages around onto the plan." The others nodded. "Still, how do we evacuate?" Shimon asked. "I have one of Naruto's Flying Thunder God kunai at the camp. It was a last option measure that the Hokage decided upon. I can call him and he can take the group back to Konoha," Naruto said, thinking that his original plan might still work and preserve his identity. But they really needed to get away now. They didn't have much time left. At the camp the group quickly sealed up the equipment that they had brought with them, while Naruto secretly made a clone outside of the tent, and changed positions with it to be able to flash into the tent, while the clone used the kunai. Hinata treated the captives as well as she could to stabilize them. Some had got burns from the electricity, but they were a minority. And thankfully not all of them had been hit. The attack had been concentrated on the center of the seal where Mala had stood. The medics in Konoha would have them back on their feet soon enough. When they had everything ready to go, the shadow clone took out a marked kunai and threw it onto the ground after pushing chakra into it. Naruto flashed to the kunai's position in fighting stance, already changed into his normal clothes. He relaxed a little when he spotted the group and made a show of nodding to Dark Phoenix. "Why did you call me Dark Phoenix?" Naruto asked. "We need an emergency evacuation to Konoha, Naruto. The mission turned too dangerous. We were able to prevent the ultimate worst scenario for the meantime, but this is a mission where ANBU are needed," Phoenix explained shortly. "Alright, Kakashi-sensei already told me to expect a call in case of emergencies and to simply do what you wanted, Phoenix." Naruto nodded. "How many people are we talking about?" 50 unconscious victims that we could save and 6 Konoha ninjas from the 2 teams that were on this mission, Phoenix answered. "I see. That's going to require good organization and some shadow clones," Naruto stated, and made about 10 clones. "I need you to bring the victims into the center of the circle me and my clones make. We will then do a transportation to Konoha. Let me think a moment about the location. We can't fit all those people into Kakashi-sensei's office after all." Naruto thought about the positions of his kunai inside the village and decided upon the arrival room for the T&I division of ANBU, as it was simply the largest and fairly close to the hospital. "Alright, get ready for transport," Naruto instructed, and the group got the unconscious people into the middle of the circle. Naruto concentrated and was only briefly disturbed when a shadow clone from the barrier was dispelled, thanks to Haiden managing to break through the barrier 10 minutes before planned. But it wouldn't matter. He connected his chakra through the clones and then he flashed the whole group back to Konoha, long before the 2 Jashinists burst into the abandoned camp, furious that the ritual wouldn't take place now.